Come on, Street Man.
What was supposed to happen on that last 2-point conversion?
Yeah, not going to get into all the specifics, Jeff, but obviously did not go as we thought it would.
Did you make that call or did Tommy?
Yeah, I make every call.
From the 35, extra lineman in, and there goes Tony Pollard. And Pollard up across the 45 and across midfield. What a block downfield. Pollard still going. Unbelievable run. He's going to take it to the house for a touchdown, Titans. Van Jefferson with that block downfield when it looked like the Browns could slow him down. Field now he drops up. Sanders can run it himself. Or Winshawn Judkins. Sanders to throw, floats for the end zone. Catch made, diving, David Njoku. It's a Browns touchdown. Rushing Pollard on 16 carries. Make it 17, and Pollard straight up the gut. Pollard to the end zone, touchdown Titans.
Speaking of house call, you got it right there.
It's blocked. Picked up. The Titans have it inside the 30-yard line. Sanders hesitates. And he gets away. Sanders will keep. And to the end zone. Shedeur Sanders runs his way in for 6. Sanders fires for the end zone. Open. Leaping up and grabbing it. Harold Fannin. That's a Browns touchdown. In your face. For the tie, no Shedeur. It's Judkins on the direct snap. He was supposed to pitch it, but didn't and couldn't. And now he's going to have to throw it, and he does. And it's incomplete. And the Titans hold him off.
Did you make that call or did Tommy?
Yeah, I make every call.
Hi, this is the main event here on the Inside Edge Podcasting Network. I'm Rob Rozycki. We have Eli Moon. We have AA Anthony Alford. And we are about to answer the question, how does a team whose quarterback goes 23 of 42 for 364 yards, 3 touchdowns in the air, and then 1 more on the ground while leading the team in rushing, by the way, and somehow you still lose that game? Shout out to the Browns defense. Again, this is the main event here on the Inside Edge Podcasting Network. We got Eli Moon, AA Anthony Alford. I hate to get this hokey, but what the hell just happened?
Well, Rob, that's something we've been experiencing in Cleveland for a long time. That is the Cleveland Browns playing their way out of a victory like they do very, very well. Now, this week, they got real creative. And you know what, AA, I know you have a ton to talk about. But Kevin Stefanski, what a great job. You know, I love the Wildcat when it's second down and it's 10-10, a second quarter, trying to break the game open, do a little fun, you know. I'm all for that. When the game is 31-29 and we need the 2-point conversion to tie the game. And like you said, Rob, Shedeur Sanders has had his best game starting this season. And granted, I get it's a tight end.
You might even be able to say last season, too, in college. Like, he had a good game. He
went off. And AA, I'm going to hand this over to you. I just want to ask you, Rob asked me a question. I'm going to ask you a question, AA. Where was Shedeur Sanders on that 2-point conversion?
On the sidelines. He was chilling with us. You know, I was just saying, I know, Eli, you're upset. I know there's a ton of Browns fans who are upset. It's been a while since I've been this happy after a loss. And the reason why, for 2 reasons. I think we have our franchise quarterback. I think Shedeur Sanders proved today you know, I know it's the Tennessee Titans, but you got to show it at some point. Mm-hmm. You get a great coach. You get a coach that, you know, can do something that can actually make sense. You could do something with Shedeur Sanders. And the receivers have never looked better. Like, this was Jerry Jeudy's best game in, like, 3,000 years. Like, you could do something there. But I'm also happy because we know that Kevin Stefanski basically already put in his 2 weeks. And the only reason why he's still here is because of ownership. And that's really it. I can't answer the second 2-point conversion. to make it 31-31. I really can't answer the first 2-point conversion attempt when it was 31-23 and you just needed the extra point. You would have made it a 7-point difference. And then, hey, you know what? If you would have made that extra point at first and then at the end of the game, you say, you know what? Season's done. Let's go for the W and go for 2 at that standpoint. Fine. But then you would have ran that stupid play anyway. So I have nothing. Stefanski's he's an idiot. I have nothing.
And believe me, well, you know, we will get to the whole NFL. We will get to the Cleveland Cavaliers. We will get to a lot of other stuff, but we got to start with the Browns for sure. For those of you who were, you know, watching those highlights and trying to unpack what we're talking about here, long story short, Cleveland down by 14 points, pops a touchdown in with about 4.5 minutes to go in the game. They are in possession mode. They got to get a stop. They need 2 scores. They need 14 points. And for whatever reason, Kevin Stefanski thought the best way to get the 14 points was to go for a 2-point conversion on the first touchdown, the one with 4.5 minutes to go. They botched that one almost as bad as they botched the second one.
Yeah, I'm more upset about the first attempt than whatever that play was at the end of the game, in my personal opinion, Rob.
And so obviously that then forces the Browns now, instead of going for an extra point to tie or even an extra point to win if they would have hit that first conversion, they now had to hit a 2-point conversion to just tie the game and force overtime. And that was the last play you saw. That was the last play. That was the play that Kevin Stefanski was talking about. We can definitely put this one on the coaching staff. And this is where, you know, you see the signs of should the head coach get fired, should there be a change, so on and so forth. Losing the locker room is one of them. But this game reminded me of, in a much, you know, I know the events were not the same A, B, C, D. This was the Lions-Bears Thanksgiving Day game last year, where the team was good enough to win for the Bears. The game plan was good enough to win for the Bears. And the only thing that got in the way of the victory was the head coach and the coaching staff. You saw a game at 1 o'clock today that the team was good enough to win, that the team wanted to win, and the weak link of the whole thing was the coaching staff. You can put it on Kevin Stefanski, and you can put it on, I don't know if Bubba Ventrone has videos of Jimmy Haslam on Epstein Island or whatever here. He has something. Or on Stefanski, because I have no idea why Bubba Ventrone, the special teams coach, is still even employed right now, let alone after last week, the week before, whatever. We had a bad block punt that put him in a situation to begin with, an actual shit punt earlier in the game, a muffed return again, a lot of miscues on special teams. So, I mean, between the play calling and the lackluster special teams, which I'm going to put completely on the coach, I have never quite seen a coaching staff get in the way of a team as Kevin Stefanski et al. Did today.
Yeah, and it's you know, Double A, I know you said Stefanski's put his 2 weeks in, or you know, he's pretty much
yeah, he already put it his 2 weeks.
But,
it's already there. It's just ownership needs to approve it.
Yeah, but it's malpractice if you let Kevin Stefanski go out there and coach another game with Shedeur Sanders. And this is coming from the guy, me, sitting here, hello, at the beginning of the season saying Stefanski and Barry are on a package deal. He can only work with what he has on the field. And then that was already after Baker Mayfield, the whole fiasco there, letting him walk. And then you have the Dylan Gabriel or Shedeur Sanders. And dang, I really wish we could have saw 6 more starts of Shedeur Sanders, because not only have we limited his progression, but also we are out there now limiting his progression while he's on the field, because who knows what a come from behind down by 14 and you come back and win that game, because you're going to go to overtime after you get that 2-point conversion successfully. Maybe he's on the field, they get it. You're going to go possibly win that game in overtime. That does wonders for a rookie quarterback, a young offense. And I think it is, like I said, malpractice to put Kevin Stefanski out there for another game, and you'll impact your franchise quarterback in Shedeur Sanders. I think he's earned that nod.
Speaking of franchise quarterback, if you're going to run that stupid play, why is your franchise quarterback not on the field?
Right.
Like, you're
For
supposed
both
to
of those 2-point conversions. What? Because it was a wildcat for both of them, wasn't it? I mean, you got Sanders who's throwing for 340 yards, 3 tutties. He is having, and Eli said it, but discernibly his best game as a pro. Now, I'm not saying Stefanski's hampering Shedor's development as much as Eli is, because if you look at the numbers, he's trending up. I mean, yeah, the win would have been nice today, but he is playing better than he did the week before, and that's what you want. But you got this whole situation here with this this coaching staff just getting in the way, and I don't understand anything was going on. You got a great quarterback. He was having a great game at least. And I don't know why you voluntarily take him off the field in those big moments. Well, even if you want to use him as a decoy, even if you want to use I don't know why you – I know Judkins is good. This is no slight on Judkins, even though Shedor had more rushing yards than he did today. Not a slight on Judkins, but he's your quarterback, dude. Like, the quarterback's supposed to have the ball in the most important parts of the game.
And earlier in the game, they went for the Wildcat, and Tennessee stuffed it. There's so much – the whole point of a trick play is that it's a trick play, meaning you don't use the trick play all the time. You use it one time so that maybe you have film, the other team may have film on it, and then you do a different variation of it. You don't want to say freaking play over and over and over again, like a 6-7, 6-7, 6-7, and do it over and over and over again. People are going to figure it out. And that's exactly what Tennessee did today. They did earlier in the game when they stuffed the Wildcat earlier in the game. Shedor would even have gotten his first touchdown, until that was stopped. And then, that matter of fact, we didn't even play the whole clip. Let's play the clip from Stefanski somehow explaining himself about what went on with the 2-point conversion at the end of the game.
Yeah, not going to get into all the specifics, Jeff, but obviously did not go as we thought it would.
Did you make that call or did Tommy?
Yeah, I make every call. Why would you take him off? Yeah, it's a 2-point play. Didn't come through on our first 2-point play. Got to the second 2-point play. We didn't come through, but that's on me.
Was that play call yours or Tommy's?
I'm responsible for all of it.
Kevin, on the first one, just I guess what prompted wanting to go forward in that scenario?
Yeah, it's a scenario that we talk about a lot. That's something that when you're down 14, feel good about the decision there. Didn't come through.
Dude, I don't understand it, and it actually makes me upset because, like I said, I was defending Kevin Stefanski at the beginning of this year. It really infuriates me because the smile and the just, like I said, I called everything. But, I mean, guys, please correct me if I'm wrong. I could have swore he handed the play calling off to Tommy Rees. So this is your moment. And this is your moment where, W keeps saying Stefanski's put his 2 weeks in. And this is your moment finally to be like, hey, this was Tommy's call. Like, Tommy called the Wildcat there. Right, well, I'm saying Stefanski had that moment to at least pass the buck. If he's really out of Cleveland, he had that moment.
Well, then we would have been kicking his ass for passing the buck.
I mean, but the way he's embracing it, just smiling, it's all on me. It's all on me. It's like he's hearing, obviously he hears it. The outside reports of, is Stefanski to blame? And it's just, I don't want him coaching my team anymore. Like, I get it. Like, I'm not a player. I'm not lining up on the sidelines. But think about the guys on that. I keep bringing up the offense. Not only Shedor, Harold Fannin, Quinshon Judkins. I know he didn't have a great game today, but still, key, vital player on offense. And you look at some of these young guys, not only Shedor, this win would have been big for the young guys on offense. I get we need a high draft pick. I know we need to surround the quarterback, which is Shedor, with more weapons. That is very apparent. But winning is contagious. I talked about Jarvis Landry, I believe, last week or the week before, and I said it's contagious. When they brought Jarvis Landry in here, all he did on a statistical level was win. And that's all he tried to instill in Miami. So when he came here and saw a young core in Cleveland, he tried to create that. And I just think right now, I'm only upset because it could have done wonders for the progression of these young players to know what it's like to come back from 14 down.
That clip real quick is interesting. Not just the play calling and him not passing the buck, but at the end of the clip, he said that everything runs through me. So, like, to Eli's point, I understand.
Shit through a goose. Yes.
Right. And Rob, I get what you're saying. Like, if you would have passed the ball, I'm not going to be hypocritical. Yes, we would have been, we would have said something if if he did pass blame. But the end of that clip is interesting because that tells me that no matter what, all of this is on Stefanski, all of it.
That's kind of what I watched that in real time, and my take of that was the control freak head coach figuratively ran over for that 2-point conversion, grabbed the clipboard, and said, "I got this because this is a big play." That's what I took from it.
I 100% agree.
And I don't get it. I don't get it, guys. I don't, because if all, we've heard reports obviously coming out in the last week or so about Stefanski. Is he going to be a hot commodity on the coaching market when the coaching vacancies start to really open up here this offseason?
For offensive coordinators?
But either way, why would you want, if I'm a team right now, why would I want Kevin Stefanski in my, running my organization on the field every Sunday? Because clearly when the going gets tough, Kevin Stefanski quits.
Well, okay, is he having a great year? No. Is he having a great 2 years? No. But he is not the toxic quarterback killer that I think we're making him out to be. I think he's arrogant. I think he wants to prove to everybody that he's smarter than everybody in the room. And I think that the play calling is affected by all of that stuff. Now, that being said, he wouldn't be the first dude to fall apart as a head coach and then go be a 5-star coordinator somewhere else.
Right.
He's not that top. He's not Josh McDaniels in Oakland. He's not any of these Urban Meyer in Jacksonville or Bobby Petrino. He's not any of these bad situations. He's just incompetent.
But his main position. Yeah, go ahead, Rob.
Maybe he might be better off just being a quarterback coach or being an OC or being Miami of Ohio's head coach. Well, whatever. Maybe not the NFL head coaching gig.
Yeah, but my main point, I guess, is Kevin Stefanski was brought in here to be what? A quarterback whisperer, a quarterback guru, whatever have you. What quarterback, besides the second coming of Joe Flacco here and him having a little bit of gas left in the tank, what quarterback has really come in here and looked promising under Kevin Stefanski? And
I know that one that they had that one guy that threw for 3 touchdowns and 346 yards today. I mean, he looked pretty good. Right,
but that wasn't his guy. So unfortunately, he kicked him out of town. And that's what I'm saying. Besides Baker, he hasn't had anything promising. So
he looked good.
Well, yeah, Shedeur, definitely Shedeur.
But that wasn't. Yeah,
but it wasn't.
I mean, there were a lot of other stuff that he didn't look great at. I'm sorry, guys.
And the thing is, that report that came out earlier the week talked about Stefanski as a wanted head coaching candidate in other places. We're not talking coordinator. We're talking head coach.
Mike Tomlin or John Harbaugh, I buy being able to get a job whenever they want. Kevin Stefanski.
You don't put that report out there just to get another coordinator job. You put that report out there to land on your feet as a head coach somewhere. Yeah. And it just so happened, it's not going to work out here in Cleveland, but somewhere else. And again, nationally, people are going to look at that 2-point conversion, and they're going to see that Shedeur Sanders was not on the field. They're going to see that, and I think, Rob, you said the smartest thing before we came on the air. He is so locked in on his analytics. He is so locked in on the analytical thinking that's why he went for 2 the first go around. Well, he tried to play the numbers, and he's overthinking the situation. And today, nationally, you got reporters, Josina Anderson and others, who absolutely love Shedeur Sanders, and they're going to cover them unfairly. And they're going to say, this guy, Kevin Stefanski, cost Shedeur Sanders the W. Fair or unfair? And that might cost Kevin Stefanski a head coaching opportunity somewhere else.
Yeah, it's just I think about it if I were to go to a restaurant and this restaurant said, hey, we are known for the best Italian spaghetti around.
As opposed to Polish spaghetti?
Yes.
Hey, look, man. I've seen, fair. All right. So, but all right. So, but look, fellas, if I am told I'm going, you got to go to this restaurant, you got to go because they are known for spaghetti. And I get there and their spaghetti sucks. and they don't have anything else really to the cheesecake isn't really worth it. The appetizers, they came out cold. It just is a terrible experience. Then why would I refer my friends to go to that restaurant? And if I'm an NFL franchise right now and I'm watching how Kevin Stefanski is reacting, it's not about can he bring the Browns to the playoffs. It's not about any of that, Rob. What it's about is he is actually putting a stop or at least some sort of halt on progression of these players, especially on offense, because these types of wins can do a lot for a team. And he hasn't done what his specialty is, which is quarterbacks. So why would any other NFL franchise want him?
He's taking some random ass quarterbacks and won some games with them. Let's and I'll play the devil's advocate here for a skosh. When you're an NFL team and you're looking at Kevin Stefanski, I would assume evaluating him as a potential head coach. If it's any of these guys that are already looking for coaches, how much blame do you put on Kevin Stefanski? And how much blame do you put on Andrew Berry? And how much blame do you put on Jimmy Haslam? Because if you're a good owner, if you're the Crafts, not saying they're going to be looking for a head coach. And typically, good owners don't look for a head coach. The Steelers, if they part ways from Tomlin, if they're looking and saying to themselves that the system that Jimmy Haslam is running, we could put the love child of Vince Lombardi and Bill Belichick as the head coach, and he ain't going to do anything. Then I could see people looking at Stefanski saying, all right, put him in a healthy situation, put him in a constructive situation, in a good organization, and he could flourish. I could see that. I mean, we could debate it. I don't know if that is definitely the case. But if you're an owner out there saying, all right, the shit show in Berea is one thing, but we run a professional operation here. He can win here. I could see that conversation happening somewhere in an NFL boardroom.
I don't know why I just put my hands up like we're in class. Rob,
that's actually not a bad idea.
I know. Would you take Kevin Stefanski in Pittsburgh?
I mean, it's basically the same offense the Steelers are running right now. Only with, at least with Stefanski's offense out here, the quarterback's 24 as opposed to 42.
Do you view it as an upgrade, though? Is Kevin Stefanski an upgrade in your situation?
No. I mean, I don't know. My feeling about that whole situation is kind of like I'm really scared to get rid of Tomlin, but I wouldn't pick him over Tomlin. No.
So I'm looking at
I don't know what coaches I would, to tell you the truth.
I don't want to get into the whole. Believe me, there will be an episode where Stefanski, we think is let go.
Yeah,
we get into
games. Yeah,
we think. For all we know, he'll get an extension out tomorrow morning.
Oh no! Oh no!
But you look at some of the teams that there are potential openings. I pulled it up on the side here. The Raiders. Pete Carroll. That could be one and done. In Las Vegas, Atlanta, Arizona, and then Cleveland, Cincinnati, Pittsburgh. So, but
Baltimore even got that right.
Exactly. But maybe the Raiders, maybe Atlanta. You know what? Atlanta might be the ideal place because the ideal quarterback that Stefanski wants is Kirk Cousins, but we don't know his future. And Kirk Cousins, we'll talk about this later. He struggled today. And then Arizona. So, to your point, is it a ownership type of situation? Nobody's going to sit here and say, oh, Jimmy Haslam is an angel. Absolutely not. That will not happen. The problem today is that Stefanski had an opportunity to win the game or at least put the game in overtime.
And he got in the way.
And he got in the way and he flat out failed. And now, today, maybe today, finally, you have tangible evidence of Kevin Stefanski getting in the way. It's no longer an assumption. It's no longer, I don't like Stefanski just because. You have now proof right there in front of your face today that your head coach cost you the win.
He's a speed bump. Everybody was trying to get up to speed. Everyone was trying to cruise, and he just dunk and slowed everything down. Yeah,
and the entire coaching staff. You mentioned Rob earlier about Bubba Ventrone, who and this is not an emotional response. Every facet of special teams is garbage. every facet. How many opens have we put together? Kickoff returns for touchdowns, punt returns for touchdowns. We put in today a punt block where the defender just got right through.
Any one of the three of us could have blocked that punt today.
Yeah. So it's those things. It's those little things. And not to mention, our number one defense gave up 31 points to one of the worst.
That's my thing. And I'm glad you brought that up because I wanted to say for a defense that is highly lauded and praised and at the top of the statistics and all of that kind of stuff, they have a habit of disappearing whenever you actually need them. And Miles I know Miles had a sack today, but I think, one sack for Miles, I think with, this season, we can consider that a bad game. How many stops, that they could have made
were
sealed this thing up and.
Yeah, the linebackers were absent today. How many times did the linebackers get sucked in? You got the guards. How many open holes were there for Tennessee today? Like, it was just there was no stops, none.
Mm-hmm.
And Cam Ward, who has had reps throughout the year, Cam Ward has struggled just learning the NFL.
Yeah.
They put him on a fire day one, and this was Cam Ward's best game. As an NFL.
Yeah, best game since the U. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, and he's going to build off that, and he's going to move on. But yeah, that was definitely his best game since he was won the Heisman Trophy and shunned out of the college football playoff last year. With all that stuff. So yeah, we'll see what happens with the Browns.
Eli,
who they got going? What's up?
I was going to say, did any of our teams win this weekend? Any of them?
No, my fantasy team even's losing, dude. It's been rough. And
no.
Man. Well,
yeah,
no.
Everybody's losing. The Bungles lost. We'll get into that next segment with the rest of the NFL. Yeah. The Buckeyes, they lost, but I don't think anybody really seemed to give a shit. We kind of saw that when the college football playoff final standings came up. It actually surprised me a little bit. I thought they was going to get released roughly about now, actually. I thought it was going to get released about 8 o'clock in the evening, but got an ESPN alert that said, nope, motherfucker, it's noon. So, yeah, we got on there and we checked out. And this was actually, normally I'm not one that's hardcore into college. Bye, Eli. Normally, I'm not one that's as into college football as, Kirk Herbstreit or, any super fan or anything like that. But this was really interesting. And AA has the graphic up there right now. Indiana, Ohio State, Georgia, and Texas Tech are your top four. I don't think that really surprised anybody after the college, the championship game round where Indiana did beat Ohio State head to head, and Texas Tech did prevail over BYU. So, those were pretty much already done and ready to go. When it got a little bit more interesting, it wasn't Oregon at 5. It wasn't really even Ole Miss at 6, even though they don't have a head coach. More on that last week. Texas A&M, I think, was always assumed to be in. And then Oklahoma, I think, was also kind of the other Big 12 team or the other SEC team that was also kind of going to be in the tournament this year. Where it got interesting was the 8, 9, 10, that area down in there. Long story short, we had 3 teams for 2 spots. You had the Crimson Tide of Alabama. You had the aforementioned Miami Hurricanes. They did not win the ACC, but Duke somehow did. But again, Miami's ranked top 10 in the country. And then we had the University of Notre Dame as the 3rd team for the 2 spots. As you can see by the graphic in front of me right now, Miami got 1 and Alabama got 1, and Notre Dame did not get 1. In a related story, about 8 hours after that bracket dropped, Notre Dame announced to the world that, in the words of Cartman from South Park, "Screw you guys, I'm going home." And they took their ball and they're going home and they're not playing a bowl game. But nonetheless, we have a college football playoff. We have one fan base that is really, really cranky right now. I think another fan base in BYU who only has 2 losses on the season, but Both losses were to Texas Tech. So there's a few people that have a legitimate gripe, and I think that there's a few people that are wondering how the hell they got to this process and to this group of teams.
I have no problem with it, honestly, for the most part. I mean, I guess you could say the Alabama is they got smoked by Georgia. And, I mean, 3 losses is tough.
First 3 losses to make it, yes.
Yeah, but it's Alabama. They've made history with those types of – they got in and they had 2 losses, And, I mean, so I think, it's Alabama. They're going to bring in eyes to these games, so they are going to get the nod over BYU, who not only lost but pretty much got smoked by Texas Tech both times. It's not competitive.
Yeah, both 3-score wins, yeah.
Right,
yeah,
and
they were not convincing at all.
And that's the thing, I think, Rob and AA, when you look at BYU, and there's a few teams we can, talk about with this, the bracket, who didn't get in, who got in. But when you look at BYU, first off, and it's no, disrespect. I know AJ DeBanza just went there for basketball, but in football, nobody really tunes in for BYU football. And that's, when you look at that, coupled with when you played the other great team in your conference, you got smoked. Well, we can't justify putting 2 teams in for that conference. Ohio State and Indiana, and congratulations to the Hoosiers for getting it done. We'll see if Ohio State matches back up with them later on. But that was a competitive game. It was 13-10, and, really should have been an overtime game if Ohio State's, kicker, oh my goodness. But yeah, but that's what it comes down to, I think, with BYU is they don't have enough marketability, and in the day and age of NIL and marketing and all that, that's what it comes down to, mixed with you got smoked by the only other good team in your conference. So I don't mind Alabama getting in, and I don't mind Notre Dame not being in either, because guess what? If you would beat Miami, you're probably sitting where Miami's sitting at.
We got to talk about this whole notion of, if you play in a conference championship game and lose, you're penalized. It's not necessarily true. But what is true, really, and I think I blame ESPN, by the way, courtesy of ESPN for the graphic we had earlier. But I do blame ESPN because I hear them talking about the committee, the process should have been this way and the process should have been that. Did everyone forget that when you meet as a committee week in and week out, everything starts from scratch every week. Every week it starts from scratch. It's not a situation where, one team is slotted here this week, so they should be slotted at this spot next week. No, it's all from scratch.
Well,
real quick. So that conference championship week, what it is, it's another opportunity to show that you belong in the playoff. However, if you get smoked, that's an opportunity for the committee to say you don't belong in the playoff. And that's exactly what happened to BYU. That's what could have happened to Alabama, but BYU got smoked. And then that's a shot at Notre Dame saying, hey, guess what? Since you're not in a conference, you didn't have an opportunity to show that you belong in the playoff, and you're sitting at home. Literally, you're going home because you're not going to play in a bowl game.
Well, if you're a Notre Dame fan, don't worry, even though I am wearing Jerome Bettis' jersey here, Notre Dame alum. I did see a parallel story with this whole bracket now going forward. If Notre Dame, especially if it expands, if Notre Dame is ranked in the top 12, no questions asked. They are in, no interpretation. It is made to be so. It will be contractually obligated to be in if they are in the top 12, because apparently they are completely different than every other team in the country. They're going to bypass all of that bullshit, all that politicking. And to your point, though, AA, with the whole week to week, it resets. That gives them, the committee anyway, the perfect out to never be consistent. That's the problem is that 1 week head-to-head matchups matter. The next week quality losses matter. The next week common opponents matter. The next week strength of schedule matters. And whatever happened 2 weeks ago, whatever logic we used to get to those top 25 teams is now completely out the window for this week. So it gives them an opportunity, like an extra sketch, to basically just shake that thing up or Memento style and completely forget whatever you were doing and lets them just kind of operate. Because one thing, and I know again, we can talk about, hey, it isn't a consistent, graph here. It's a week, it's 12 separate whatevers here. Miami was ranked below Notre Dame. I want to say as long as Miami was 2 in the country for a second. After they had that loss, they were consistently ranked underneath Notre Dame week in, week out, week in, week out. And then all of a sudden, Alabama doing whatever they're doing apparently affected 2 teams that stayed at home for this conference championship weekend and somehow flipped spots.
Yeah, but I get what you're saying, Rob, but I really truly don't think, based off how the college football playoff bracket is structured, the committee got this pretty much right for the most part. Like, I can understand Notre Dame being a little bit frustrated because, to your point, then that is weird about them being ranked above them. That's odd. But I do think ultimately the right team got in because Miami and Notre Dame played head-to-head, and Miami beat them head-to-head. And that's what
I don't think anybody's complaining. I think everyone's wondering why Alabama's there.
Yeah,
I think Alabama's the spot that's being questioned.
And I think it's it's the money. It's because that's what they bring in. I mean, for these types of games, even if they get bounced round 1, they're going to bring in more eyes to that game, and it's against Oklahoma, so it's going to be. Oklahoma brings in a big market too, so it'll be interesting. Now, I do think this. I will say this. I think, and I've been seeing it all over like social media every now and then. And I fall down a rabbit hole, and I see this super conference where all the conferences just become one big thing. You've talked about it before, but the super conference will eliminate a lot of these problems because we won't have to be like, well, the conference winner of all the conferences that we don't cater to is going to get in. There's going to, in Texas, Steve Sarkisian's not going to be able to sit there and go, well, maybe we just don't schedule these types of teams anymore because you're going to have to because we're all part of one conference. And then it'll be when you see 1 through 12 ranked, it's 1 through 12. It's not, well, if 14 wins their conference championship, they may jump over 8. And I think that's going to eliminate a lot of it. I think it's going to come a lot sooner than we think because of these types of discussions.
Because it ain't working now. This system ain't working.
You know what, though? Hold up. What do you mean it's not working? What do you mean?
I think you have a lot of wasted bullshit in here. When you have Alabama head coach out there talking about how it shouldn't matter that they lost the championship game. It shouldn't matter that we lost the championship game. The only thing I could think of was the SEC championship. It just means less. That's not exactly what you want to be kind of communicating here. You got if I'm a bubble team in the SEC, I'm not playing the conference title game. Why at this rate? Like, there's nothing to. I don't know. You have a game between 1 and 2 that nobody gave 2 shits about because no matter what, one team was going to be the number 1 seed, the other team was going to be the number 2 seed, and we're going to move on with our day, and nobody was really going to be affected. And you're trying to funnel. I don't even know off the top of my head how many Power 4 teams are out there, let alone the other 5 conferences in this mess too. You're trying to funnel this thing down into 12 teams. So naturally, somebody's going to be pissed off. Somebody's like the NFL, they get 14 teams out of 32.
Right.
Major League Baseball gets 12 out of 30. The NBA gets 20 out of 30 now at the play-in tournament. Like, you're now trying to put 12 teams out of 200? That's right. Why this system's screwy. And then at the same point in time, we're now putting ourselves in a situation like, one of the ideas that I had for tonight was let's come up with our 12-team, NFL playoff because, at this rate, I understand, Kansas City's a 6-16, but I just know that Patrick Mahomes is better than Drake May. So I'm going to have to put him above that.
Hold up.
And that's the only way you can get all of these teams into this whole, into this little 12-team group is use opinion, use, all of this stuff that isn't empirical data, that isn't wins and losses, that isn't playing the games. Now you're just hoping that your AD is serving on the committee in the right year.
So if we did that exercise, let's say we did that exercise for the NFL each and every single week. All right, cool. We have our own metrics. We know straight for schedule, this, that. Patrick Mahomes plays for the Chiefs, so Objectively, that matters. That does matter. Those kind of things. Isn't it at the end of the day, who are the 12 best teams? Like, at the end of the final exam, no matter what metric we use, the final exam, who are the 12 best teams?
And why do you play the regular season?
And if we said, oh crap, the Colts have had a fine season all year long, and I had them at 12. But here comes Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs, and I feel ultimately that they are the better team than the Indianapolis Colts, and I put them in. Do I have to explain myself why I'm putting them in, or do they belong there?
They don't. Then why do you play the regular season?
But I think the college football one, though, guys, like, honestly, I think the college football one's a little different because, Rob, these aren't teams that are getting in with 4, 5, 6 losses. It's not like Duke. I get Alabama. I know we're about to say the 3 losses. That's why I was very careful and said 4, 5, 6. But, you look at, Duke didn't get in. Duke won the ACC championship, beat a ranked Virginia team. They didn't get in. So, I truly think the ultimate conference, or whatever they're going to call it, when they get a bunch of these teams together and you see a Tulane play against some of the the big schools earlier on in the year, so you're not wondering if Tulane can hang with them or James Madison can hang with these schools. That's gonna really simplify a lot of this. But until then, we're gonna be having discussions about, does the ACC championship matter? Because nobody talked about, does Duke deserve it? Well, because they have 5 losses coming into it, and nobody talked about should BYU get in. I think as soon as BYU was down by 3 scores, everybody scribbled them out of their bracket contenders. I mean, that's the reality.
Yeah, because they didn't have an A on their helmet.
But red. You know what, though? Yeah. Alabama proved, though, that I'm strictly from a football competitive standpoint, you don't need to expand. Strictly from football. Because, to me, Alabama's not a contender to win a national title. All the teams that are true, legitimate contenders to win the national title all got in. It's not like the 4-team playoff situation where a top legitimate, Oregon or Texas A&M, they didn't get in. And and they're good teams. Like, every team that is in contention, legitimate contenders, they're in the playoff. From that standpoint, from a football standpoint, the playoff works.
Well, you can make an argument that Notre Dame is good enough to win this tournament. I mean, they have a great team that did falter the first 2 weeks of the season. You can definitely make it, and again, to the broken system idea of this, can either of you tell me clearly and concisely why James Madison or Tulane has a better chance than BYU and Notre Dame?
So my argument to that,
James Madison played one Power 4 team all year and got their ass kicked by 30 points.
But my argument isn't even really an argument to you, Rob, because I know you and AA more so have differing takes. My take is really more so solution focused, where we won't have this discussion of a James Madison or a Tulane in the future because they're going to have those type of games earlier on in the year against an Alabama or an Ohio State. And we'll find out. And I know they had the one. I know you mentioned the one game they had, but they won their conference. And right now, the way the structure is set up, James Madison is allowed to be one of the Cinderella stories. Same with Tulane.
But I would do this, though, all kidding aside, because as I just mentioned, from a football standpoint, the conferences all kind of put themselves in this position in the first place. Because what was the discussion we all had going into the conference championships last week? Oh, Ohio State's a great team, but they didn't face USC. They didn't face this team. They didn't face that team. Indiana, great season, but they didn't face USC, this team. The ultimate crapshoot would have been if USC, I'm just hypothetically speaking, what if USC was undefeated this year? But USC couldn't face Indiana and Ohio State. You can only put 2 in the conference championship.
Well, look at I think this system, and it makes sense, it was designed before the expansion here. When, back in my day, when the Big Ten only had 12 teams or 14 teams or whatever it is, not the 20, whatever. I don't even know how many are in the Big Ten anymore. I don't even know
now.
SEC, think about, as big as these conferences are, The only time Indiana and Ohio State played in the last 2 years was in that conference title game. They weren't on each other's regular season schedule for 2 years, and they're in the same conference.
Right.
And, you even look at the way it was designed with the conference champions getting in. The reason why we're playing this game with that, with the Gang of Five school and, now what we have, the ACC out in the other one in too. Remember, this was originally built for the Big Ten, for the SEC, for the ACC, for the Big 12, and for the Pac-12.
That's right.
Right.
That's why it seems like now we have an extra guaranteed slot for a conference champion, because they thought there were going to be more conferences. They didn't count on the Pac-12, sinking and all the rats fleeing out to the Mountain West, to the Big Ten, to the SEC, to wherever. So this system, it was built for a college football landscape that really doesn't exist right now. And yeah, maybe to Double A's point, we have to kind of get a super conference in here. Something with 40 teams, I would have to say would be, 40 teams into 12, whatever it would be. My idea would be to maybe, and I don't know if the ADs would go for it, have relegation where you can play your way out of that top tier into the middle tier, into the lower tier, and then vice versa back up.
The Premier League style.
Basically. Yeah. And, and kind of have something going on with that, and having your top, and, and if it's 40 teams, and you want to keep the bowls, some of those mid-level teams will make bowls. Some of those mid-level teams will be able to do the normal thing that they're used to. But when it comes down to just, hey, you got to be in the top third to win a national championship. Sorry, Buckaroo. You know, that whole thing. And maybe but right now we're using a college football system for a league that doesn't exist anymore.
Correct.
Really what it comes down to.
And that's what it is, Rob. Exactly. And it'll be easier on the teams. It'll be, we've heard complaints since, from some of these schools that go from West Coast to East Coast on, and not just football and basketball,
Oh, yeah, you got Rutgers lacrosse having to deal with going from Piscataway, New Jersey to
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
On a
Washington.
Tuesday night.
That's what I'm
saying. And then, you got class on Thursday morning. You better have some coffee, Buckaroo.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying too. I know we talk, and those ones we're going to talk about football, and when March Madness comes around, we're going to talk basketball. But just overall for athletics, I think getting to a point where we eliminate conferences, because like you said, Rob, we're in a system, we're trying to run a college football playoff system in a league, a college football world that's outdated. And I think once we eliminate that, it'll be easier on the athletes, the teams. They can make their own schedules. Okay, you don't want to play anybody? Well, then don't be mad when you don't get in, because we're all part of the same conference. You want to play and you want to win these games, go ahead. I just think life will be so much easier here. What's it, 2025 going into 2026? Let's talk in 2028, because I think things will look a lot different by around then, or at least discussion-wise.
Eli and Rob, you both are exactly right, which means you're both wrong, because they're going to do the exact opposite. Is the playoff is going to be a 24-team playoff. You're going to have auto bids. You're going to have, the Big Ten is going to have 6 auto bids.
Or
top going to have 6 auto bids. ACC, you're going to see auto bids. Notre Dame, to Rob's point earlier, if they're in the top 12 or whatever, guaranteed spot. These conferences not only are not going to dissolve, they're going to buy their way into a playoff system. It's not actually, the name of this playoff system is wrong. It shouldn't be called the college football playoff. It's the SEC Big Ten Invitational.
Right, reasonably,
that's 12 are just happy invites.
And if you want to get down to if we want to modernize this, and I know this is not really going with the standings or anything, they're one step away from saying you don't even have to go to class. We're just going to hire you to play football. You're going to be here, and then I'm waiting too for these guys to think that they're a little bit bigger than they are and say, all right, well, eligibility doesn't matter too. Why can't Joe Burrow spend 10 years at LSU? And we'll just do it that way.
Ole Miss didn't make it, correct?
Ole Miss did make it. They're playing Tulane.
Yeah, they're playing Tulane. They'll make the second round.
I'm back. Yeah.
You know what? I think Tulane's winning that game.
I'm telling you.
How many of those Ole Miss players is going to join Lane Kiffin?
Dude.
You can't make that. They can't do that now. The transfer portal opens up at the top of January, I think.
All I'm saying.
They're there.
I'm sorry, Eli, jump in right after me. But if they sit out if it opens up top of January, they'll probably sit out that first round game.
I don't know. If you look at Twitter, there's not a whole lot of players that are very happy with Lane. By the way, the winner of that game would get Georgia. So that's
all I'm saying, fellas. I'm looking at this bracket, okay, right? Because every time you guys, it's weird. Every time we go to talk about the bracket, like everything gets quiet. I don't know. We don't ever see the bracket, and I just disappear for a moment, and then I come back, and then we're
cover you up. But go ahead, Eli.
No, just kidding. All right, All right. So as you guys hear my voice behind the bracket, you look at it up in the top, James Madison, Oregon, and I just start smelling the flowers, spring starting to get in town, and it feels like March Madness. And I just AA to your Tulane, I'll raise you one. I think James Madison is upsetting Oregon, and Dan Lanning's going to lose it. James Madison is going to win that game, and then probably get smoked by Texas Tech. But let's just call it what it is. There's a lot of fun, and I come back to the screen now. There's a lot of fun here in this matchup, AA and Rob, and in this bracket. And I think that's all we've been asking for. Like I said, it is going to eventually have to be fixed again, and whether it's getting rid of conferences or make it into AA, just brought it up, expanding the bracket again to 24 teams. However, they got to do it. But for right now, it's not. It's working, I guess is my point. It's working, and you get true underdog teams in Tulane and James Madison that we can rock out with. And if they get smoked, well, we expected it. And if they don't, now we got something.
The one thing I will also throw in here, it was 1 year, so I don't know if it's a trend. I don't know if it's a coinky-dink. Remember last year, all 4 top teams who had the bye got the asses kicked in the first game they had a chance to play.
Right.
So I don't know if that's going to be. I doubt it's going to be all 4 this year. But if you're Indiana, Georgia, Ohio State, Texas Tech, I would think one of them might not make the at least one, if not 2, might not make the semifinals. And I don't know if it's going to be Tulane kicking Georgia's ass, or if it's going to be James Madison now figuring out how to play football all of a sudden and taking down the Big 12 champion. But they better do something if they want to have representation in this bracket. Because if it's going to be the lower end conferences just getting their asses handed to them in the first game by a Ole Miss or an Oregon or a Bama or whoever, then there's not a whole lot of reason to put one of these teams in when you got, I'm sure Notre Dame fan is looking at Tulane and looking at James Madison going, you put us on the field with those guys 10 times, we are going to win 10 times. We are going to use our second stringers for one of those games. We're going to use our fourth stringers, and we are still going to beat them 10 times out of 10. And who would disagree with that? So if I'm Madison, if I'm Tulane, then one of those teams better do something.
I do want to react to one thing before. I know we got a break here soon. I do want to react to one thing that actually involves one of our teams. It involves Ohio State. And the fact that the committee basically said, hey, you know what? 2 of the top defenses yesterday competed, and we're going to keep them at 1 and 2. And I thought that game, and because I thought Georgia was going to move up to 2.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought
that, Ohio State was going to be 3, basically.
Yeah, that's what I thought. And I know at the end of the day that really doesn't matter. But I think in terms of how that game played out yesterday, Ohio State had 2 drives in that fourth quarter, a 12-play drive and a 15-play drive, where they marched right down the field. And unfortunately, both times, they QB sneak on 4th and 1, which I thought I thought we got it, but then the knee was down, and then the field goal kick there at the end. Like Ohio State, I don't want to play the would have, should have, because the result did happen, but Ohio State was in the driver's seat to win that game yesterday, and it didn't happen. But the committee saw that and said, hey, Ohio State, you only fall to 2. I thought that was interesting. Instead of, if this is the BCS,
they're the 4.
Georgia probably would have been 2.
Yeah.
And my final point to this, Rozycki, before I kick it over to you, my final point on this is we finally got to see Shedeur Sanders and Fernando Mendoza both play an NFL-ready defense, an NFL defense, basically, because Ohio State's defense every year is basically the next NFL draft of first rounders. So we got to see them play kind of like our first head-to-head. Shador won, Mendoza nothing, man. That's all I'm saying. That was one of my takeaways this weekend. As we were sitting here talking about Mendoza maybe. I'm cool, man. I'm cool. We got Shador. I'm cool.
We'll see if Mendoza or Sayan is going to be in the Heisman discussions. We'll see. Sayan still has another year or two left. I think Mendoza will be into the draft this year. So, yeah, we're going to be talking about that. The one thing I'm looking forward to is if they win their first round game, we will have a rematch of the 2001 national title game. It will be the Canes. It will be the Buckeyes. And I would like to see that. The other team I do want to shout out, a team that is not in this bracket, John Carroll University. Sports Center last night. I was a little surprised to see them. They were playing Mount Union, that team that Division III that wins pretty much every year in the national title. They ain't going to win this year because John Carroll kicked their ass 10-7 and sent them packing. So they're shout out to John Carroll. I think they're going to the finals now, or they got 2 more games left. I got to double check the brackets on it. But dude, I don't care. Beating Mount Union, that's something to hang your hat on.
Yeah.
That's huge. And that was a great finish too. So congrats to John. I know they're working on campus upgrades too over there, University Heights.
You keep winning games, you'll be getting some upgrades for sure. But this is the main event here on the Inside Edge Podcasting Network. As we're talking to you right now, the Sunday night football game is in the second quarter, and the Houston Texans just popped one in the end zone. They are defeating the Kansas City Chiefs 9-0 right now, pending extra point. I'm keeping an eye on that one because if Kansas City loses, they'll have the same record as the Miami Dolphins, and that'll be fun for me. But yes, I am Rob Rozycki. We have Eli Moon in the middle. He has been the college football playoff graphic on and off for the last 10 minutes or so. AA Anthony Alford, he is sneaking into his DMs at this point. I am, again, Rob Rozycki. This is the main event.
There.
What's up?
Real Marks.
You're back in the game, AA. Playoffs.
That's a big one.
Hey, good stuff. Well, I'm happy to hear that. I'm DOA on fantasy. We'll save that for a different day. But up next, we'll talk about the NFL just in general. Speaking of the Chiefs and Texans happening right now, we have some problems happening at Rocket Arena, Quicken Loans Arena. The Cavaliers. The arena they play in has changed names more times than Prince, but we are having some issues happening right now with the team itself. Losing to Golden State last night. I believe it is now 12-9 on the year. I want to say 12-9. I could be wrong on that. But we are having a 5-alarm fire, or maybe not. We'll see what's happening with that. And then also, too, news and notes happening, what we learned. But we got an action-packed next couple segments for you. This is the main event here on the Inside Edge Podcasting Network. Rob Rozycki, Eli Moon, AA Anthony Alford. We'll be back.
the fake. Williams looking, throwing, it is intercepted! Keyshawn Nixon and the Packers will win it!
Welcome back to the main event here on the Inside Edge Podcasting Network. I'm Rob Rozycki. We have Eli Moon directly to my left here. And where's do we know where Double A's at? Do we?
He'll be here in a moment. He just wanted to let you intro the show, not get nervous.
Is he fighting with neighbors? Okay, cool. I didn't know if you were scrapping with
here.
neighbors at this point.
Yeah.
I don't know if somebody else is beating on your window.
Dog, it's been a war zone out there, man.
I live in Menor, man. I have no idea what you're talking about. It's pristine out here.
Are they running the Wildcat outside? Are you just having flashbacks of 1 o'clock today?
Yes.
Oh,
yes.
Lord.
Somebody had a strong opinion about Kevin Stefanski outside, so I had to deal with that.
Well, yeah, there's a lot of things we have to deal with that damn Browns team. Let's talk NFL, though. That doesn't pertain with the Cleveland Browns. Let's talk about the other, legitimate NFL franchises here. What you just saw was the end of the Packers and Bears game there. Packers win in thrilling fashion, 28-21. That was just one of a few games this week that, with the schedule kind of randomizing and rearing its ugly head, we had about 3 or 4 games that were de facto playoff games for a lot of teams for either playoff spots, for division titles. That one being one of them to basically figure out who's going to be the leader of the NFC North.
Mm-hmm.
We got this game happening right now with Houston and Kansas City. They're fighting over both of their playoff lives right now. Houston at 7-5, Kansas City at 6-6. A couple of other games that were basically de facto playoff games was Cowboys and Lions on Thursday, the Thursday night game. And also, too, my team, the Steelers, were involved in one of those kind of situations, too, with the Ravens. A lot of big games this week. I don't know where you want to start. If we want to go with Green Bay, if we want to go with big picture, if we want to go wherever you guys want to take this thing at this rate.
Eli has his hand up.
Rob, you asked me a question last week about the Chicago Bears, and that's where I'd love to start, actually. You had asked me, my friend, you said, Eli, do you believe in the Chicago Bears, to paraphrase? And I said, no, because the Bears are going to be the Bears. And you said, okay, well, let me ask you this. If they beat the Packers both times, will you believe in the Chicago Bears then? I said, you know what, Rob, I will. And damn, I'm even mad I agreed because, what are we talking about? Ever since I've basically remembered my football existence, the Packers are greater than the Bears. And we just watching that clip again, no matter which way they do it, the Packers are just going to continue to beat the Bears. I wouldn't be surprised if they sweep this season series. I mean, the Bears are going to bear. And that's what it comes down to. I mean, I'm not trying to make this a crap on the Bears situation, but at the end of the day, we talked about them as being one of the big dogs. They were literally, if I remember correctly, number 2 last week, as W puts up this great graph to discuss. Number 2. And now who's looking there? Green Bay. It's just like, I just can't buy into the Chicago Bears team. I know we're going to talk a lot about the NFL. That's where I'd love to start because I just don't think Caleb Williams has that killer instinct in his body. I think when it comes down to winning these big games, when they matter and it gets cold out, Caleb Williams is wishing he was still in Southern California.
Well, Green Bay is healthy too. Watson had a big game for them, and the receiving core for the Packers, that's hit or miss just because again they've had injury issues. Kind of familiar with the basketball team we have here in Cleveland. It's can you get all of your guys healthy, and things can make a difference. But I do think Eli's onto something when you're talking about finally overcoming the hump, right? Chicago hasn't done it yet. Chicago's had a phenomenal season, a great season. And they're going to get the Packers again in 2 weeks on a Saturday. So you can either watch James Madison playoff football or the Bears-Packers rematch in 2 weeks.
Oh, decisions.
Decisions. Are you going to watch James Madison upset Oregon, or are you going to watch Bears-Packers too? You got decisions to make.
Double A, I'll let you get right back to it, but I already know how one ends, so I'll probably be watching James Madison.
No, but you know what? This is a case like look, Caleb Williams, he struggled in this game a little bit. So until Chicago can do it, until they can put away Green Bay, I have to agree with Eli. I think you pick Green Bay until otherwise noted, or if they have too many people injured and they're out. But overall, that was a great game, and we don't talk much about the Packers' defense oftentimes, but it was the defense that made a statement today from the beginning of the game to the final play of this afternoon's game.
It's just so weird right now, and I agree with what you're saying with the Bears. Caleb Williams has not done it yet. There are a lot of question marks with that team, inconsistencies in some cases too. But the only reason why I give them right now a chance in the NFC period is you can say that for pretty much every team. The Rams, they lost to the Panthers last week. The Eagles have had their issues. The Packers, we all watched the Cleveland Browns beat them up pretty good. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers have not looked great at points in time. Seattle has blipped out. Sam Darnold, does anybody trust him? Who would you trust more in this situation, Sam Darnold or Caleb Williams? With San Francisco is all beat up. They've had their ups and downs. And to tell you how close and a bottlenecked all of these teams are in the NFC, realistically and in the standings, Chicago went from the number one team in the conference to start the day. Now they're the 7th seed, and they're a game away from being completely out of the playoffs altogether. So this is how fast this stuff's kind of moving around. The difference between the Rams at 10-3 and the Lions at 8-5. I don't really know, what team do you trust in this whole thing? What team is going to be consistent enough? Or is it just really going to be the team that is the hottest the last couple weeks of the season? But
the only team I trust in the NFC are the Rams.
Yeah.
Like I said, the Rams are the only team.
Well, Carolina.
I know, but I think Carolina's a fine team. Carolina may not pass Tampa Bay, but I just think it was one of those matchups where like Carolina's inconsistent. They're great. They're a great team, but they're inconsistent. I think the Rams have the total package, and Carolina's just played better, But I think the Rams are the one team I can trust. Chicago has those issues, and I'm looking at their schedule, Chicago, and they have next week Cleveland. That should be a bounce back game. And then Green Bay, San Fran, Detroit. They could be out.
That's what I'm saying. Detroit very well could be the 7th. We could be looking at Detroit being the 6th or 7th seed. To your point, AA. And it's like, we talk about, and I kind of just bring up Chicago. We talk about these young quarterbacks, across the league. Can they get it done? And I know everybody's probably feeling a lot better in Chicago, knowing that they might be able to host some playoff games come playoff time. Now, I'm okay before you guys ask. I know you're about to hear a big siren. But it's Chicago. They are now heading into wherever they go into, whether it's the Rams or Green Bay, wherever they're heading. Now they have to go on the road. And I don't think Caleb Williams in this offense can get it done. They're very young and explosive, and it's exciting, but I don't think they can get it done. And I think they're kind of like the weak link out of this right now. If we were to look and say who isn't going to be here come playoff time, I think Chicago is going to be replaced with Detroit.
Well, when you look at the NFC as a whole, I can see why AA is going with, if you're going to trust somebody, trust the Rams. They're the only team in the NFC that has a quarterback and a head coach that have won a Super Bowl. Mm-hmm. Like, that infrastructure is in place. We've seen them do it before.
Right.
Everybody else, though, you're all trying to figure out, like, there's not a lot of trust there. What, Green Bay, Matt LaFleur, and Jordan Love. You haven't, okay, you got Sirianni and Hurts there. I guess that's the other team that has the Super Bowl credibility. But we've seen all the problems that they just, every team just has, a reason not to trust him at this point in time, and including the Rams if you want to get down to it. And I don't know where this is going to fall. Detroit could be the 8th seed. They could win the NFC North. San Francisco, same kind of thing. They, as great as Tampa Bay is right now, I'm sorry, as great as Los Angeles is right now, and how Double A's talking about them as the number one team in the NFC and the team that you trust. The Niners are one game back. The Rams are one bad week away from being the 6th seed. So, I mean, there's just a lot to – there's not a lot of trust right now.
Let me make a case for Green Bay.
That are a year away. You got some teams that have a missing piece. You got some teams that, could use some work. There's not really a perfect team going on right now.
Let me make a quick case for Green Bay. It may not be that convincing, but I'll make a little bit of a case. December scheduling, December and January. This is basically the best on best within division, the scheduling. Green Bay is undefeated right now in the NFC North in terms of their division record. They're 4-0. So right there, they're going to have a tiebreaker. If we're going off metrics of can Chicago overcome Green Bay in division head-to-head, if our answer is no, then Green Bay is a team that could, if they handle business in the division, they can have a sweet spot in the playoffs. And if they can get healthy across the board, and Watson can put things together, Reed, a couple of those other guys, and you have to play in Green Bay in January, that could be a difference maker. It could be. Could the Rams slip up heading into the playoffs? If the answer is yes, then that number one seed is so important because there's a big difference in the NFC. If the playoffs run through Los Angeles, cool as a dome, fine. But if the playoffs run through Green Bay and they're the one seed, all they need is 2 games in the playoffs. And they're in the Super Bowl. That's it. And how many of those other teams we have listed there do you trust in cold weather situations to beat the Packers in January in a cold weather situation?
I think you are right. Where I think home field advantage, and even with all the stuff that you're saying with your questions about the Bears, the same thing holds true about Soldier Field. So, I mean, that could be Philadelphia the same way. Lincoln Financial is out in the open, too. So, you got some teams that do have decided home field advantages that would be really benefited by, especially this year more than most. And in the NFC, it's going to be weird because that's going to be so important. But in the AFC, you're going to have a lot of, these wildcard teams might end up being Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, and Patrick Mahomes. So that might be the other side of the bracket, a situation where you could give a shit who has home field advantage. But I think, in the NFC where you have a lot of teams that are untested, where you have a lot of teams that do have question marks, you have less question marks when you're at home. So that's going to definitely be a benefit to whoever gets that top seed, whoever even gets the higher seeds and can have first and second round games at home. So the NFC is going to be, I think, a complete mess until literally the last week of the season. You could have a team that, in theory, could be the 2 seed or could be out of the playoffs, I think, when that week starts.
Yeah, and you kind of highlight, talked about the AFC a little bit, Rob. The AFC, man, Double A ever so smooth with the graphic change there. You look at Indianapolis, man, and for as great of a day as Indiana fans had on Saturday, what a rough Sunday. I mean, Daniel Jones going down. I think they officially announced that it is an Achilles injury. That he's going to have surgery on it. So that's unfortunate.
That sucks, man.
Yeah, and it's like, they had Riley Leonard come in. But, man, we talked about it last week. But now even this coming in now, the news today, Indianapolis might not be in this playoff graphic, by the end of next Sunday. It's really starting to look interesting, especially, you keep highlighting a little bit, Houston's playing right now, and Houston's looking better every week, and C.J. Stroud's starting to look like, rookie season C.J. Stroud.
Well, if Houston wins and Harrison Buckner, noted women's rights activist, just clanked the field goal off the upright and doinked one, they just showed Taylor Swift. She looks disappointed.
She's at the game?
Right now, we're
she's there?
Yeah.
She's at the game? They showed
apparently.
Oh,
holy smokes!
I thought she only went. I said last week. I thought she only went when the team's good. They're on the upswing.
Yeah, she sticks it. She sticks, through. When the going gets tough, she keeps going.
Okay.
But the point that I'm making though is Houston and the Colts right now. Houston's 7-5. The Colts are 8-5 right now. They're a half game up. Apparently, I think they had their bye this week. Or no, I think they'll have their bye next week or something here. They're a game ahead. No, sorry. We'll wait for Houston to get done. Then they'll be.
I was like,
on a game.
Yeah, good.
I got confused there really, really quick. Houston is right now 4-1 in the division, and Indy is 2-2. So, by my knowledge of NFL tiebreakers, if Houston wins this game, they're now the 7th seed. They leapfrog Indiana, and the Colts now are sitting as the 8th seed. So, Eli, before the end of the day, they could be out of this playoff graphic.
And, and real quick, the first tiebreaker is head-to-head. And Houston beat Indy last week.
Right. And that's just
game ahead of them, too. So, yeah.
I think it's just going to be interesting. I think Houston, we talk about, at the beginning of the year, what the heck's wrong with the Houston Texans. We're talking about them maybe being the worst team or the biggest letdown in the NFL at certain points. And they even had their Davis Mills experience. It feels like it's like a yearly protocol. They have to have Davis Mills at least throw a few passes.
Oh, I heard Diana Rossini say that people were calling the Texans for Davis Mills, and they were straight up treating him like Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah.
Like, you are not trading for this guy, dude. Like, he untradeable. And literally the next week he goes out and wins a game for the Texans.
So I'm saying, it's good. It's good to have a good backup, and I think, Houston's really interesting. I know they're not in this graphic right now, but I think they will be. I actually think they're going to end up winning the AFC South. And I think they're going to be a very tough out come playoff time. We talk about the NFC and a lot of who's proven it. And I know Houston's not proven it necessarily with CJ Stroud. They've won a playoff game, and they showed what they could maybe do. But I think this is the year where that defense is still very, very good. Nico Collins is one of the best young receivers in the league. I think it's going to be interesting. And hey, you know what? If Nick Chubb can make a postseason run and maybe make a run for that Lombardi trophy, I'm never going to be mad about that.
I don't think they'll pass Jacksonville. That's the only.
Yeah, Jacksonville at 9-4. That's a pretty lofty goal.
I don't think they'll pass Jacksonville, but I feel bad for the Colts because this is it. Because teams have locked down on Jonathan Taylor even before the Daniel Jones injury. Teams were pressing, the passing game. Like, hey, you're going to win football games. It's going to be because of Daniel Jones. That's not really coming together. And then now with the injury, I feel bad because the Colts have went through a lot in the offseason. They were one of the best stories of the NFL season, but it's fallen apart. It started, by the way, with them not being able to hold on to a 20-9 lead to Kansas City in the fourth quarter.
That's true.
It started then. What would have happened if they would have held on to that lead? They would have knocked out Kansas City. That KC would have been done, and Indy would have continued on winning. But they lost there, and they haven't recovered since that fourth quarter.
And that injury is really going to mess them up too long term because you think about how much a difference a month makes. If we're talking at the top of November, end of October, this year, Danny Dimes is getting an extension. Danny Dimes is the long-term solution, the first long-term solution the Colts have had a quarterback since Andrew Luck. Now with the Achilles, he's going to be damaged goods to start the season. Like the rehab process dictates that. So he is going to be having, issues coming back in. His future is completely up in the air now. Is he going to be there long term? Is he going to be there for another year or two? We don't know. And now the Colts themselves, they're going to be doing the same thing. Do we have to look for a quarterback now? Do we have to this problem we thought that was solved 4 weeks ago? The hardest problem to solve in the NFL, ask any Browns fan. Find the quarterback. They thought they did it, and now all of a sudden they were the number one seed in the AFC a couple of weeks ago, and now they're going to be on the outside looking in if Houston wins this game.
Yeah.
What I find funny, though. What's up?
I was going to say, we have anything else on the AFC South?
No, I was going to move actually to the – and this is weird because the way the AFC is constructed right now, and I guess the NFC too, is so competitive. It is razor thin. And the best of the best are going to get in the AFC. Absolutely. Like you're going to need 10, 12 wins probably to be a serious team or even a playoff team, probably double-digit wins. Except there is one race, and it's kind of the weird thing. It's you got the one kind of just wayward situation here happening in the AFC. The AFC North. We a division that we thought was going to be one of the best in football. You have two teams right now who played each other today, the Steelers and the Baltimore Ravens. Steelers coming up on top right of that one, 27-22. They are now in the driver's seat of the NFC North, at least for the time being. You have two teams in that situation who played each other today. What it reminds me of is a race with two cars, and really the winner's going to be the one that has the most gas. Like you got two teams rolling on E that are sputtering, that are just trying to get over the finish line. And the only team, the team that's going to win is going to be the team that's going to just have the energy to do it. Honestly, I haven't seen the AFC North this low collectively, really ever in memory since the AFC North's been a thing. And yeah, Steelers and Ravens today, Aaron Rodgers, I guess, looked okay, but yeah, here we go.
I thought the Steelers, the Houston could prove me wrong on this. I thought the Steelers had probably the most impressive win today. Maybe you could argue Green Bay, but I thought the Steelers, the way that, honestly, this is probably, if you are thinking about what the peak of Aaron Rodgers with Pittsburgh could look like, him and DK, and then I know you guys got Thielen this week. I mean, the offense, when I think Steelers-Ravens, I do not think of a 27-12 to 22 game. I remember, and I'm sure you do too, Rob, 13-9 defensive classics where like James Harrison and
everyone's hurt. Everyone just like they're ripping body parts off each other and beating them with the severed arm. Yeah,
whatever.
That's what those games typically are.
But hey, this Steelers offense, if Aaron Rodgers can probably have more meetings at his home, maybe for them, calling out his receivers is actually a good thing over there in Pittsburgh. Because at least with Aaron, I know we joke about his passive aggressiveness, and it does piss people off, things like that. But maybe in that locker room, there does need to be a straight shooter who does hold people accountable, who actually has the resume of an Aaron Rodgers. He actually, he won the Super Bowl. He's always been year in and year out one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. He's always proven, you know what? I'm gonna give you an opportunity to win. You guys, as the receiving core, just show up for me, and I got you. So I know people hate on Aaron Rodgers, and I can come on here this time next week and say I can't stand this guy. But Aaron Rodgers might be exactly what you guys needed in that locker room for the Steelers.
And Rob, I remember at the beginning of the year when we all sat down for main event over at Double A's studio there, and we sat down and you said, "Man, Aaron Rodgers, we all know how, me and Double A at least know how you feel about him. You're not necessarily the biggest.
It's been a very irritating season, yes.
But it's so crazy because you said he could be the demise because he's going to Aaron Rodgers his way out and what he did with the Jets. And I remember sitting there telling you, dude, Aaron Rodgers is exactly what you need. And he's the reason you guys are where you're at right now. I get the defense has some good games, and I get it. They've had the Steelers, steal Curtin every now and then, and other guys have stepped out. Aaron Rodgers had a rushing touchdown today. He is doing everything he possibly can to get to the AFC North Championship. That is, I just think it's going to be one of his greatest feats, and it's going to hurt my soul. But if Aaron Rodgers goes on a great run with the Steelers this postseason, it's going to be his greatest feat yet. Not only because he's older, 42, but just because everybody has wrote him off. I wish he was in any other uniform than Pittsburgh because I'd be rooting so hard for him, but I cannot. As a Browns fan, I cannot.
The trouble is with A-Rod is that you have the whole A-Rod thing with the Jets that's coming in too. I understand that. You also have Mr. 9-8, Mr. First Round of the playoffs, Mike Tomlin. And if Aaron Rodgers is the force that is needed to get the Steelers into the second round of the playoffs, then okay, that's just something I'm going to have to handle and just deal with as whatever. He just annoys me. It is what it is. He played good quarterback.
You know what? You don't have to apologize for that. If you find him annoying, I completely understand. You don't even have to explain.
And again, we talk about the dichotomy of these of all of these teams. Where they look impressive as hell. They beat the Ravens. Aaron Rodgers, rushing touchdown. Eli talked about it. You have, looked like Aaron Rodgers of old for a split second. Last week, he looked like Y.A. Tittle out there with a broken nose. He looked like John Rambo getting chased around by Brian Dennehy in First Blood. It looked like it was a survival flick. He was fighting off zombies in Walking Dead. And they lost that game 20-6 or 26-7. So, and Eli brings it up. You both kind of brought it up. This is not the stereotypical lean on the defense Steeler team. I think the only single-digit game the Steelers had all year as a defense was against the Browns. And I don't know how much weight you want to put into that, but this is a defense that's given up 26 points last week, 31 the week before. Okay, they had a decent game against Cincinnati with 12, but after that is 26, 20, 35, 33. Like, this is not a good defense. And Aaron Rodgers is going to have to be able to pull every rabbit out of his hat to kind of compensate for that, unless the defense gets 5 turnovers, because that's the only way the defense actually looks halfway decent. But it's going to be a long road to hoe. And when you're talking about these, the teams that are 11 and, you got the Denvers and New Englands and Buffaloes and the Chargers of the world here, I just don't see the Steelers right now being able to hold up as, the one-eyed man is, what's the saying? A one-eyed man is the king of a group of people of blind guys, something like that, where, the Steelers are just going to be the one that goes to the playoffs, it looks like, out of this division. And I don't know if that's going to be winning in the first round, winning in the second round, or anything like that.
Eli, I know you got a point to make about Buffalo. I have a quick question for Rob. So I'm looking at your Steelers schedule.
Yeah.
Miami on Monday night, which we thought for a while that was going to be flexed out. It's not. And actually, Miami is picking up some W's. They beat the Jets. I know. But on the road against Detroit, on the road against Cleveland, which basically means they ain't traveling much. And then you finish in the regular season against Baltimore. I mean, what do you think in terms of outlook? Because I'm looking at the schedule. You just beat Baltimore. Detroit might be a tough one, but all 4 of those games should be winnable games.
They're all winnable games, and if you want to be real about it, I have a feeling that that Baltimore game is going to get flexed to Sunday night. I got a feeling that's going to be the last game of the season. That is probably going to be for the AFC North. Baltimore has Cincinnati, New England, Green Bay, and then Pittsburgh. So I will take Pittsburgh's Final Four over Baltimore's Final Four. But the Steelers' schedule is going to help them out for sure. I don't know. Like, they just got to help themselves. That's where they're at this point in time. They got to win these winnable games. Miami is going to be a benchmark. I can see the Steelers losing that game next week after a convincing win against the Baltimore Ravens this week. That's just kind of where everything's at right now.
Because that's the thing. It's like the schedule tells you, honestly, you should be able to get in the driver's seat and win the AFC North. I took a peek here at Jacksonville's schedule. I'm like, is there a realistic chance you can catch Jacksonville? No. They have the Jets. They should beat them. But then Denver, Indianapolis, like those are 2 games, maybe, and then Tennessee. So that would be tough for you guys to catch Jacksonville. But the schedule at least gives you a chance. And I do think in this AFC playoff, I think if you look right now, how much do you trust? Like, to me, the difference between the Bills and the Chargers, like, I want to see how the Chargers look against Philadelphia tomorrow night. Yeah. I think the Bills are still, Eli, they're still Super Bowl contenders.
I don't trust the Bills. I don't trust the Bills. I don't. I know they had to come from behind victory against the Bengals today, and I get it. And you know what? I still don't trust them because when it comes down to it, they just don't have that. When it comes to a contender, we're just going to stomp on you. And then we're going to do it to the next contender. We're going to stomp on you. This is a team, let's not forget their franchise history. And this is coming from a Browns fan. So please, City of Buffalo, hear me when I say this is from a place of love. But Jim Kelly will remind you that there was 4 Super Bowl appearances, and they didn't get to any. So when you look at how they've now, instead of Super Bowl appearances, they've downgraded to AFC Conference Championship losses to Patrick Mahomes. And I don't trust the Buffalo Bills. In fact, they are the most susceptible team to lose in the first round out of all these teams I see right now. I think if Pittsburgh and Buffalo play in round 1, I have Pittsburgh by 10.
By 10?
I don't trust.
By 10, they got demolished last week.
I don't trust the Buffalo Bills when it comes to the playoffs. No. I think we talk about their windows. We talk about teams' windows. You know, we talked about it when the Browns had Baker here and their window, and the Browns did whatever. And then we talk about these other teams' windows. Well, Buffalo, I'm not saying their window is closing. Just, we talked about it with Kansas City when he had the Mahomes had Tyreek Hill and Kelsey and those guys around him. And then that window with Kelsey on the way out here in the next year or two is coming to a close. Josh Allen is coming to a close with some of this run. And I'm just saying, you look at Sean McDermott and some of these guys that haven't got it done, and it might be time for Buffalo to look, can we maybe find an upgrade to get the job done? Buffalo is fool's gold this year. Fool's gold. They're out round 1.
I'm going to have to push back on that because was Buffalo stopped just because they could beat Kansas City? Because if Kansas City's not in the playoffs, it's open season in the AFC. And if the matchups hold, we just saw Buffalo and Pittsburgh last week. Josh Allen and that offense, they're moving right now, and you want a big body quarterback in the playoffs. You do. And if we're talking about, do you need experience in the playoffs? If that's the metric, do you need experience with the team that you're with in the playoffs? Who is more experienced on this entire playoff field besides Aaron Rodgers than Josh Allen?
But that's what I'm saying, Double A. If Aaron Rodgers meets Josh Allen in round 1, Pittsburgh by 10. Because at the end of the day, I think Rob brings it up every week, pre-show and in the show. He says
Buffalo beat Pittsburgh last year in the playoffs, by the way.
I get it. NFL, we're talking about this season, though, and here's why I think it's different. Aaron Rodgers, and I'm going to get to that in a moment. The NFL is very week by week right now with how our team's looking. Yes, if you looked at the Steelers last week, Double A, you'd think they maybe were one of the worst teams, and I should be saying this about them. This rant should be about the Steelers. But then you see them go play a game against Baltimore, and I think at their highest level of excellence, the Pittsburgh Steelers have a better offense than the Buffalo Bills, and that's what it's going to come down to. I don't think either team are going to get a ton of stops come postseason time, but I think Aaron Rodgers is going to be the one to get it done. I think they have a higher ceiling than the Buffalo Bills. And honestly, you could give me any of these teams besides Indianapolis right now in this graphic and probably the Chargers. I'd take any of the teams in front of Buffalo right now ahead of them. I would. And right now, I would take Houston in a round 1 matchup over Buffalo.
Well, if Buffalo does not, and I heard, Double A talking about the Patrick Mahomes situation. If Buffalo doesn't do anything with this year, if they don't progress in the playoffs, if they don't beat the Steelers, if they don't beat the Ravens, whoever, because it's been the pecking order in the NFL or in the AFC anyway has been Mahomes, Allen, Jackson. And if you look at that, Allen always beats Jackson. Mahomes always beats, Allen. It always works out that way. Mm. When the Steelers won both of their Super Bowls with Roethlisberger, guess who didn't make the playoffs that year? Tom Brady. And they had two. It was 1 year. It was 1 year was the Matt Castle year, and then the other year, Rex Ryan took out Tom Brady. And that was when the Jets were actually pretty decent. So when you can avoid the one bugaboo, when you can avoid the one black cat, you got to do something. And if they don't if they don't have to deal with Mahomes in the playoffs and somehow this still falls apart, I can make an argument that the window isn't closed. The window never existed. And at this rate, and I understand, I try to give Sean McDermott as much patience as possible. Every time I think about people trying to, saying, okay, time to get rid of him. They brought that up to Bill Cowher on one of the pregame shows for CBS. And Bill just kind of leans back in his chair and quietly says, I didn't win my first Super Bowl until year 14. So, I mean, I understand that mid-90s patience is a whole lot different than, mid-2020s patience, but I don't think they need to blow everything up, but I think they need to definitely look at some things. If that doesn't happen.
My final point, though, on the Bills, and I think, that's, what I feel the most passionate about when it comes to the AFC standings right now, just watching them. If Cincinnati had just a C-plus defense, just somewhat of an average defense, that game's over. But Cincinnati was putting belt to ass. Let's just call it what it is. That's what they were doing to the Buffalo Bills. And if they had a competent defense, that game is over. And Cincinnati's not going to probably make the playoffs. Joe Burrow came back too late. Injury, obviously, everything happens. He's not going to be there. But Joe Burrow is a guy who's been in the Super Bowl. He's been one of those, you talk about Mahomes, Allen, Jackson, Rob. Let's not forget the guy who's beat Mahomes and is still one of those dogs in the AFC, Burrow. And I think that's why I get it's a game against a team that's not going to be in the playoffs. But that's such an eye-opener to me today that they just were lucky enough to be playing Cincinnati and not a team that would have shut down in the fourth quarter.
But I don't know if that's because I think we've always expected, especially when Joe Burrow was healthy, that was the way that game played out was exactly how it played out. Showcase matchup where both quarterbacks shined, and Josh Allen could do that. I want to make real quick before we move. I think we're going to talk Cavs next.
Quickly, because we're definitely not we are definitely not hustling through this show for sure.
I do want to make a quick point. I think the best team in the AFC was the team that didn't play today, but we couldn't talk about them because they played on Monday night last week. New England.
Yeah. Yeah.
Whoa.
Drake May.
If this was a committee, if we had to do the committee exercise, New England is not my top team in the AFC right now. They are, their defense is amazing. And of course, Drake May, he's one of my MVP candidates. Drake May's having an unbelievable year. They're figuring, Tavion Henderson, they're figuring things out in their backfield. New England, oh my goodness. I know they didn't play today, but I just wanted to make sure we spent at least a few seconds mentioning who I think is one of the best teams in football right now. That's the Patriots.
I kind of agree with you, but I'll take this as the NCAA committee would look at it. Yes, I understand that you have won a lot of games in a row. You're 11-2, but you have quality wins over the Dolphins, the Saints, the Titans, the Browns, the Falcons, the Jets again, the Bungles, and the New York Giants. The only argument and I agree with you, they're a good team. They just really haven't beat a lot of other top echelon teams.
Okay, Billy Packer.
And that's why I believe in my 12-team playoff that the New England Patriots would be the first team out and the Detroit Lions would be the first team in.
All I know, my only takeaway on the Patriots is I was watching with Papa Moon, and I just saw the fury in Mike Vrabel's eyes when he was playing the Giants of oh, you guys took Super Bowls from us. And I mean, he just let it. That one was for Tom Brady. That one was for Teddy Bruschi. That one's for everybody.
Yeah, he's a good coach, and any team that has him in the building for a year plus and then just lets him walk out the door, pretty stupid team. But the Patriots are good to have him, and Titans were dumb to get rid of him. I wonder what he was doing last year, though.
Big
I don't know.
Big dummies.
Don't we have basketball to talk about? I just swore we have basketball to talk about.
Yes, we actually. We can move on to basketball here. We have a tradition here on this show dating all the way back to when we were broadcast students that really the only time we talk about the Cleveland Cavaliers is when they suck or when they're losing.
I'm glad you remembered.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, yeah. We're pretty good with that. And now I think it seems like a good time to talk about it because the Cleveland Cavaliers are 14-11 on the year. Yeah. I believe last I checked, they were the 8th seed in the East. Mm-hmm. They might even be lower now after that loss to a beleaguered Golden State team. No Steph Curry, no Draymond Green, no Jimmy Butler. And the skeleton of the Warriors tuned up the Cleveland Cavaliers 99-94. A team that right now the Cavaliers have just not been able to find a groove. Injuries have been a huge problem. Stagnant offense. Just not a lot of good things to talk about for the Cleveland Cavaliers. And this is a team that, if you were to date back to about this time last year, I think they've lost 2 games, 1 game at this rate, 25 games into the season last year. Not exactly the start that Cavalier fans were anticipating.
I think it was real quick. I think it was 3 games lost at this point last year. Boston, after we started 15-0, and then for some stupid reason we couldn't beat the Hawks. I think we lost twice to the Hawks, and we didn't make it to the NBA Cup, which broke my heart last year. I was looking forward to the Cavaliers competing in the NBA Cup. I'm kidding. Go ahead.
You're good. You're good, Double A. I just think it's not even record that I'm really concerned about right now because, I'm obviously I really love the NBA, and anybody that kind of sees the NBA early on knows that it just takes 2-3 games here or there to jump up into 4th, 3rd place in the conference, and so I don't really pay too much attention to record right now. They're above 500, so that's good. What's concerning?
Yeah, to Eli's point, the Cavs are 5.5 out, and the 8 seed. If they're 4 out, they're the 3 seed. So they're a game and a half away from the 3 seed.
Yeah. So I'm not concerned about record as much, Robin Double A. As much as I am concerned about where's the team that had this heart and chemistry? I mean, I just don't understand it. I know they've been hurt. We talked about it pre-show. I think you said 6 guys out for the team yesterday, led by Jared Allen and Sam Merrill. But those are times I get 6 players a lot, but there's been times where they weren't that down and they've lost games. They would pull those type of victories out last year, and I just don't understand what's going on. And I'm getting concerned a little bit. It's early, so I won't get too concerned. I won't sound the alarm. But man, we got to talk about how Donovan Mitchell's in his prime. He is, out of all the guys in his prime. We talk about the young core. Donovan is the closest to 30, and he's the best player on the team. We have to start thinking about, do we have the right guys around Donovan to win it right now? I know they let Ty Jerome walk in the offseason. We'll see as the season goes on. That's kind of concerning because he was really a leader of the second unit. And now with Merrill being out, I know they were running him in the starting lineup for certain points of the season, but there really hasn't been any meshing of the team. And Darius Garland, I'll kind of chill for now. I have some thoughts on Darius Garland as far as does he fit on this team long term? We've discussed it with Garland once. Should it be Colin Sexton or Darius Garland? And the Cavaliers chose Darius Garland. Well, now here we are again trying to determine if he is the right backcourt member for Donovan Mitchell. And if the right backcourt member means second round exits, then we've hit our ceiling with Darius Garland. We've already been there. But we need to look at what does this team miss that it had last year? Because I know, Rob, you've talked about Mobley. I know we've had discussions about the bigs in general. Jared Allen out right now. Obviously, they're feeling that. But I really think it comes down to who is playing next to Donovan Mitchell. And I don't think we have enough star power to get this done right now.
Well, and I guess you are right, but I think I have a different cause for it at this point. And I know you kind of just glossed over the injury report pretty quickly here, but this team's had 13 starting lineups in 25 games. Who's playing around Donovan Mitchell is varying greatly from night to night, and you got Darius Garland's missed 16 games this year. Jared Allen's missed 10 games this year. There's just no consistency happening right now. It's Donovan and Evan that are basically the guys that are in there pretty much every day in, day out. And really the only starters anyway who are doing it. So you can't really get a lot of consistency if you don't get these guys out there. Now, do we need to maybe think about changing up the roster a little bit on getting guys who are healthier and getting guys who are available and ready to go? That's something we might have to talk about. But right now, they just need to get these guys healthy and all on the same page. Then you just talk about it. You win 3 games in a row, and all of a sudden you're in the top half of the East again. I think that's really all they need right now is just to get some consistency going in that lineup.
Well, and Rob, you know this because of the amount of Cavs games you guys had to cover on TAM last week. How many days that they have played? I think it was 5 out of the 7 days of the week last week that they played.
Yeah, they're good. Yeah, they've had a lot of action for sure.
Yeah, and at least here they're not going to play again until Friday, so it kind of feels a little bit like a bye week. In fact, the Cavs only have 2 games between right now and December 17th. So 2 games in a 10-day stretch.
By then, you should have Jared Allen back, who missing a few games with a finger. You might even be thinking about Max Strus coming on back. He hasn't played all this season, and I know they're kind of on the watch with him. And then, some of these guys are going to get healthier throughout the time, and they just need some time off at this rate. And if they're still sitting here mulling around the 7, in the play-in land, basically. If they're mulling around here in a month or 2, then I'll start getting worried. But I think we all as Cavs fans understood that we were, if anything, we were going to sacrifice some regular season wins for postseason greatness. And that's kind of what I'm seeing right now. They're still trying to figure things out. They don't have to be good right now. They have to be good in 2 months.
Right, but
go ahead, Eli. You go.
I appreciate it, Double A. All I was going to say is, I just feel like, Rob, you do bring up the great point of Max Strus. I think that'll help out Sam Merrill when he returns from injury, too. I think that'll help him ease back into where he really is just more suited for. He's that spark plug off the bench, hitting threes. And Strus is our guy that does a little bit more for the starting unit, obviously. So I think that'll be interesting. But, I don't want to, shake the entire, Cavs community. But it's I guess, when do you ask yourself, if you're the Cavs, if you're Kobe Altman and you're Dan Gilbert and you're the Cavaliers, when do you ask yourself, what do we need to do to ensure the Donovan Mitchell era has at least one championship? Because the Cavs did give up quite a haul to get Donovan Mitchell. It wasn't like they found a disgruntled star that the team said, have him. And, they bought low on him. The Cavs paid a good amount of capital and players. I still miss Lauri Markkanen. But they have Donovan here, and they have not yet seen the success that you would think when getting to Double A's point. He said it in many of a few of the shows here, the face of the league in some eyes, and we're not taking care of it.
Well, the thing is, though, too, to your question, Eli, the front office answered your question already by saying that they are fully committed to the core 4. That's their sales pitch. Their sales pitch was
it has to be.
It has to be because of the second apron.
Bingo.
Because of this is an expensive roster.
The core 4. We can't find anybody better for this price.
Yeah, this is it. You have the Cavaliers have paid for a vehicle that has loans on it, and it must be paid off.
Oh yeah, you got a 5-year note on that car, man. You're going to be in that damn thing whether you like it or not until the next president is elected.
And if you change your mind and say, you know what, I don't really like everything that's going on with this vehicle. Actually, I have a change of tone with this vehicle. You can't go back to the dealership. This is it.
Yeah,
you can make some minor changes. To your point, Eli, that's where they may have to look at. But we had a discussion off air. We'll pull back the curtain. We had a discussion off air earlier in the week after a loss about Giannis. We did.
Yeah.
And there was a reason why, as entertaining and passionate as that conversation that we had, there was a reason why that conversation was shut down. Rob?
The second apron. Yeah, we were sitting on our text chain kind of talking about it, just kind of, and I honestly didn't hate the idea. I think we were kind of fighting on who to trade for him, but I think all of us were okay with it. But then, kind of continuing my day and wandering around through life, and I go, wait, we got the second apron. And what that means is, and for those of you who aren't in tune with NBA economics, most of the time when you see a big trade happen, it's, Shaquille O'Neal for 6 guys, or, it's, Kevin Durant 17 trade, and, you got, 5 guys coming back to Phoenix or whatever. You cannot do that right now under the current rules of the NBA. We are in the second apron, which means we have spent too much money for too long. And now, because of that, there are things we cannot do. Throw cash into trades, and also what they call aggregate. And that's the 2-for-1, 3-for-1, 4-for-1. it would have to be a 1-for-1 deal or a 2-for-2 deal. Meaning, the only way we could get Giannis on a 1-for-1 deal would be Donovan Mitchell. That's the only. I'm not saying on skill. I'm not saying on fit. I'm saying on number matching number. That is the only max player all NBA guy we have. That's the only dude that can go. Now, do you want to throw, Giannis, Beyonce, Larry, Mo, Curly, Shemp, all the Giannis Antetokounmpo siblings on this thing? Because Milwaukee has it's weird. They signed 4 of his brothers and they wonder why the team sucks. But
hey, they try to get that family discount.
Could you throw those guys in as cannon fodder and say, okay, Giannis and the 3 brothers equals out to, find 4 guys on our team would be comparable or something along that line? I don't know. But you would be shooting the moon if this deal did get done. The other name that we can bring up too, for all of you mid-teens NBA fans out there, 13, 14, 15, CP3. We went into it a little. I don't know if we went into it last week at all, but he was, and this gets complex too. He was sent home by the Clippers early last week, and he's not playing for him. They don't like him. He doesn't like them. There's a lot of trash being talked from the coaching staff, Ty Lue included, Jeff Van Gundy. We're not talking about random names here. We're talking about respected coaches. Mm-hmm. They're button heads pretty good out there. I will say, even though he's not playing, he's not cut. He's still on the roster.
Right.
So the Cavs would have to figure out a trade, or because the issue is with Chris Paul out in the Clippers, is they don't have enough salary cap room to cut him and sign another decent guy. So there's the economics. So they either have to trade him or they have to negotiate a buyout, which I don't know how charitable Chris Paul is going to feel right now. But would either of you be interested in basically, I'm not saying the trade, but, in rotation minutes wise, swapping out Lonzo Ball and putting in Chris Paul?
Hell no.
No.
No?
Hell
no.
No?
No. No.
No.
No.
No. Because to your point, if you go back and look at the last week alone, that's all the evidence I need to not bring Chris Paul to Cleveland.
Yeah, he is described as the Chevy Chase of the NBA. Very talented, moderately successful, and everybody hates him.
And I don't even think his skill level would even help enhance this team, that kind of thing. Now, there is one positive if you have Chris Paul. You don't get calls because you go complain to the refs all the time.
He's going to complain to the refs. He's going to complain to our coach. He's going to complain to the other coach. He's going to complain to the Tim Alcorn calling the game. He's going to complain to the guy selling hot dogs. He might even just get on this show and complain. We don't know.
That'd be a big get. That'd be a big get for the main event.
I'll take it.
Chris Paul, not gonna lie.
We'll take it. That we'll take.
If Chris Paul's listening,
and we talk about durability here. Chris Paul started 82 games last year for the Spurs. It wasn't that long ago when he was an actual player. Right. But what I will say is that the crap that he does, like the pull, if he is, correct, I think the reports are him basically contradicting coaches saying, hey, Kawhi, you guard this guy instead of that guy because it ain't working out. Ty Lue, Jeff Van Gundy get kicked off.
Those are things that LeBron does.
I was going to say,
the skill set of LeBron, that's different. He doesn't.
That's the stuff that Chris Paul 5 years ago could do. When you're an all-NBA point guard, when you're a perennial all-star, you're the starting guy on the team, you're the leader. Jason Kidd could probably have done that in his prime. Isaiah Thomas. You don't do it when you're playing 2.5 minutes a game. And I think that's the issue that the Clippers are in with Paul. And honestly, we like to win on AA. We like to win on, the power of friendship, and we like to be the super friends here. If you're talking about chemistry and if you're talking about the delicate balance in that locker room, hey, AA, if you're talking about chemistry and the balance of that locker room, Chris Paul is going to throw a monkey wrench into that whole thing.
Yeah. For everything we've talked about, Rob, AA, Chris Paul is nowhere near the solution. He is not the bridge defining the solution. Just no.
The last thing I'll point out before we break about the Cavs themselves, because I brought this up to you guys on Saturday when they're facing the Warriors. And I think the 13 starting different lineups has something to do with this. My concern on the floor, their offense is there's very
no motion.
No motion, no cuts, no nothing with the offense. If it's basically are our guys hitting threes, spot up jumpers? And if the answer is no, which could be at any given night, we're not winning games. And that's the part on a night-to-night basis that is concerning me about the Cavs.
The stuff that scares me, and you bring that up, and Double A, you know what I'm talking about with previous jobs. When I'm working at the station and we got a Cavs game, I got to cut highlights. And, if it is a Mitchell dunk or an Allen assist, whatever. Most of the highlights I cut are pass, somebody 4-3, good. It's all perimeter play. And I understand that's where the NBA is going. Nobody really likes to shoot inside anymore. But you need that 2-point game going. You need the layup game going. And for a team, if you look at the analytics, the Cavs cut, I don't know if it's the worst in the league, but it's bottom 2 or 3 of worst cutting teams in the league. And what we're talking about, guys slashing towards the hole, or to the hoop, guys, screens, moving off, that kind of motion. Mm-hmm. And what it is right now is, you got normally the 4 guys, the 4 guards, wings, kind of playing up on the, behind the 3-point line. You got Jared Allen waving at everybody underneath, and that's your offense. And they cannot get out of the first round, let alone win a title with that kind of offense.
Definitely. I hope the Cavs can, again, thank goodness for this week off. Basically, a week off. They get healthy, get Max Strus back, get a few other key components back. Because, as we put a bow to this conversation, they're on a loan. This is the core 4. It has to work. They have to figure out how it works in order to win this championship. Yeah. So it's tough.
Yeah, because they might have a minor move. They might be able to kind of swing some stuff, but I mean, they don't really have a lot of draft picks. They don't have a lot of assets that can move, and with the second apron, they just don't have a lot of freedom at all. This is the main event here on the Inside Edge Podcasting Network. You can find us on TikTok, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, the Facebook at Inside Edge Net. Check us out and follow, like, subscribe, all that happy stuff. We got Double A Anthony Alford. We got Eli Moon. I am Rob Rozycki. We're about 2/3 the way through this radio program, radio fiasco, whatever you want to call it. Up next, though, we'll have some news and notes we'll talk about. We'll figure out what we learned. We got a lot to talk about in the news and notes, too. And there is a story that we did not bring up that I'm going to have to let Double A and Eli know. We had a new Hall of Famer named during the show. So we'll talk about that. We'll also talk about, obviously, Odell Beckham Jr. is in the news and running around and trying to figure out what's going on. Yeah. And, with a lot of other stuff happening in the world of sports, we will definitely get into on the main event. We got guys doing – is that gang signs?
No.
Don't worry about it. Just gonna break.
Are you telling me to steal third? What's going on? Well, okay, I'm gonna try.
Saw that blowing money. We blowing money.
Okay.
Like Odell blowing that money.
Okay. Yeah. Just like Odell. Yes. Let's hopefully we won't be like Odell for too much longer. Let's take a quick break. And figure out where our lives went wrong, regroup, and then come back. And we'll finish up this quality radio show here on the Inside Edge Podcasting Network. This is the main event. Rob Rozycki, Double A Anthony Alford, Eli Moon. We'll be back. Welcome back to the main event here on the Inside Edge Podcasting Network. I am Rob Rozycki, AA Anthony Alford, Eli Moon, who have all been joking with each other about, since we started early, we're just going to run a shit ton longer than we normally do. That's where we're at. This is the final segment of the show. Talked about the Browns debacle against, oh Lord, I even forget who they're playing at this.
Tennessee.
Tennessee
The Titans.
Cam Ward. Talking about the Cavs issues, talking about the NFL in general, and now we are on, well, also the college football playoff too. So yes, we are on to news and notes, and we do have a couple of breaking stories that have actually been happening as the show has been progressing for the fortnight we have been on the air. Number one is the one that AA actually sent us here, and we'll start with a little college football. I know we did hit the BCS, or the I keep on calling it BCS and showing my age, the college football playoff. We have a situation happening right now with the Birmingham Bowl. It seems like Georgia Southern wants to play the Birmingham Bowl. Nobody else does. Florida State, Auburn, UCF, Baylor, Rutgers, Temple, Kansas have all told the Birmingham Bowl, thanks but no thanks. We are trying to find another 5-7 team to take their spot. But yeah, it looks like we have too many slots for too many bowl games for not enough teams.
And I think Appalachian State just took their spot. So I think they do have an opponent. But I love Brett McMurphy. Who tweeted today. He was just like, hey, listen, anybody want to play in a bowl game? We got an opening. Georgia Southern's looking for an opponent. Just come on down. It'll be on ESPN.
I'm actually bummed, AA, that you just said the Appalachian State took it. I mean, kudos to them. But I was thinking, what if we got an Inside Edge Network team together and we went and played Georgia Southern?
We would get destroyed.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't show up
I'm
on the record.
43 years old.
It's a ball game. It doesn't matter.
Do we get NIL money?
You're damn right we do.
All right,
okay, now we can talk. Birmingham's a hell of a town.
Yeah.
Alabama, yeah, you're 49th in education, but great state. Great.
Isn't there there's the Xbox Bowl? When we get into bowl season, I love the actual corporate sponsors. The Xbox Bowl, Pop-Tart Bowl.
While we're talking bowl games, BYU went from a possible playoff team to playing in the Pop-Tart Bowl.
Hey,
life comes at you fast.
Have you seen the celebration of the Pop-Tart Bowl?
Oh, I'm not disrespecting that at all.
Okay.
And from what I understand, it's going to be bigger this year than it was in last year.
Oh yeah, they go in.
That's all I'm saying.
You win, you get in that toaster.
That hey, do what you do there. Speaking of though, with these college teams, there is a higher profile team that did, and we did touch on it a little bit in the BC or in the college football playoff talk. Notre Dame. They decided that they don't even want a New Year's Six bowl. They would be probably the top get for any of the non-playoff bowls. They're going to get their choice of stuff, and their choice was to take their ball and go home. I wonder if we're going to start seeing that happen more and more from some of these schools that do get, kind of get pushed on the outside, looking in. After the BC, after these playoffs are announced and everything like that, I wonder if this is going to become a normal thing.
Yeah, I think this might be the end of bowl season. I'm not saying like this season, specifically, but I think, as we talked about in the first segment with like the creation of a super conference and the focus on maybe expanding the college football playoff, I think you're going to see a lot more of this. I think this is the new norm, Rob, and I think we're seeing the end of bowl season. I mean, these sponsors, instead of sponsoring, unfortunately, I know it sounds mean to the players and the schools involved, but a meaningless bowl game if I'm a sponsor, or am I trying to get, maybe put on like somewhere on the field or somewhere in the stadium during a college football playoff game? So I think this might be the end of bowl season.
Well, and believe me, I can make all the jokes in the world about, Notre Dame and whiny and, entitled and all that stuff, but be serious. What would you rather have? Would you rather have Notre Dame just say thanks but no thanks? Or in the case of Florida State a couple of years ago when they got snubbed out of the 14 playoff, I mean, they basically put their JV team out there and got throttled by 45 points. As a fan, what would you at least what I'm thinking is like the teams that show up, I'd want to have play. And Notre Dame sounds like they wouldn't take this game seriously at all if they did show up for it just to cash the check.
Well, I think as a fan, you definitely want your team to play. I mean, you want to finish your season with a W. I mean, I think that's a huge thing. But let's be real about what happened. Playoff expansion, put the bowl season, in the emergency room.
Again, talking about a system that was 10 years old that this whole playoff thing's kind of based on is not working.
Mm-hmm. And NIL pretty much put a knife to it and stabbed it. I mean, the one specialty that you had, we was just joking about it, was, the corporate sponsorships. You go to the Xbox Bowl, for example, you probably get some free video games, right? You get some, whatever you want. You free 2K, free whatever, Halo, whatever. I'm not an Xbox guy. I'm more of a PlayStation, Nintendo, but you get my point. Whatever hot game you have for the Xbox, you're getting that for free. NIL has that covered for you. NIL already is taking care of you. So there's not even like an incentive to even make the trip. The Bahamas Bowl is gone. So, like, there's no real
unless you're playing Hawaii, out in the Hula Bowl or whatever.
There's no incentive. And then, I forgot one other element, too. The transfer portal.
Yeah.
So, on top of all of that, Notre Dame as a coaching staff and even the players, some of those players are going to transfer. They're going to have to field a new team. And, I hate Notre Dame because they're the one team that can create their own schedule. They're not in the conference. They didn't get their way. They had an opportunity to play in a bowl game, and they declined it. I hate them, but I get it.
They don't need it. They don't need it. Why? And, and I'll bring up, and I'll probably surprise Eli with this because I'm going to sound a little bit more like him when we were talking NBA players and playing all-star games. If I'm a college athlete too, and you want to put me in the Pop-Tart Bowl, you want to put me in the FedEx, you want to put me in the Meineke Car Care Bowl, whatever, that's risking injury. Right. That's risking, possible futures in playing in the NFL, anything along that line. We are in the era of NIL. How about you pay me? Why am I going to go play an exhibition game? And all the arguments I can make about the All-Star game, I can't, the tradition, helping, I can't make any of that about these bowl games that are blatantly cash grabs for about 35 different sponsors out there. So, if I'm, the running back at Notre Dame, and we want to go play in the holiday.
Love.
All right, come on. Money talks, man. Yeah. And especially if I'm putting my body at risk for something that could be potentially, career ending. Like, how many times have we seen what Marcus Lattimore, I remember that name from South Carolina, like in a meaningless bowl game, blows out his knee, gets drafted seventh round as opposed to first round, never plays it down. So
weren't we together during the first main event run? I think we were at Jack John's with one of the Bosa brothers.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, yeah. Oh, well, I think we were with Jack John when one of the Bosa brothers got nailed for targeting.
When targeting was
which he had the best way to do it. Like, all right, I'll just play a couple of plays and get ejected, and then we're just going to great.
Yeah, that's when targeting was
I'll be suspended for the next game of college that I'll never actually end up playing. It's correct.
Yeah, completely new concept at that time. We were like, targeting? We don't get it. But, I mean, it just – it sucks, but it doesn't suck because, like I said, the players are going to find a way. The ones that are elite level are going to find a way to get to the games that matter, which are college football playoff games. And the reason I say that is because with the transfer portal, if you're good enough, a coach is going to want you, especially a coach that's trying to establish a new roster like Lane Kiffin out in LSU. Florida's got the new coach. You got all these different switch ups. I think it's going to be interesting, and I think the sponsors are just going to take it instead of being the sponsor of a bowl game. They'll take being on some sort of sponsorship run for a college football playoff game. So that it sucks, but all the big bowl games are still here. They're just in the college football playoff, Rose Bowl, all of them.
Eli brings that point right there at the end is the huge thing. Most of these bowl games are labeled under ESPN events. Right, they're like ESPN runs
made for TV events.
So
that's what they are. Battle of the Network Stars. That's what basically they are.
So don't be surprised. You flip on ESPN, and a network that doesn't have the Notre Dame contract, a network that really doesn't have any ties to Notre Dame. And Notre Dame didn't just tell whatever bowl game, they didn't tell the bowls no. They told ESPN no. They told the mothership no. So don't be surprised. You watch First Take, Get Up, whatever show, and there is a network-wide beatdown of Notre Dame because they wanted that brand on their made-for-television event, and Notre Dame said no.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And they don't. And NBC probably has a different perspective on the whole thing because games.
NBC, and that's the one standout thing about this whole the college football playoff debate we had earlier, real quick. Man, boy, is this sports television or cable news? Because if it's ESPN, they're lobbying for Georgia to be at the top. They're lobbying for Alabama. We know Alabama looked bad, but they better be in the playoff. They better be. Meanwhile, Fox is saying number 1 and number 2, no matter what. Indiana, Ohio State, all the Big Ten teams have all these resumes. It's crazy.
That's actually, and I can even almost put this as what I've learned. I think I will save that for a what I've learned situation here because the college coach's job responsibilities has completely changed in the last 20 years, and we'll get into that for sure. But we'll move on here. Again, we're going real long here, so let's try to get through some of these stories here in a timely fashion. The other breaking story that happened while we were on the air, the Major League Baseball Hall of Fame Eras Committee, they announced the one player who got enough ballots on I believe it was a 12-person ballot. One guy is going to the Hall of Fame, and I think I'm trying to figure out what the story is. Who went or who didn't go? Because the guy who's going, I don't know, Eli, might be a little bit before your time. Remember Jeff Kent?
Yeah, heck yeah, the outfielder, man, for the Angels.
Second baseman.
For the Angels.
For the Giants.
Yeah, all right, go ahead.
Hey,
yeah, Jeff.
Hey, man, you got it.
And Giants, he made most of his money at, but Toronto bopped around the league for a little bit. But probably the best power hitting second baseman of all time. We can get into the numbers in a second here, but the big thing: Carlos Delgado did not get in. 9 out of 16 votes. Don Mattingly, who a lot of people were rooting for, 6 votes out of the 16 votes. Dale Murphy, 6 votes. You needed 12 to get in, by the way. But the big story is Barry Bonds, Roger Clemens, Gary Sheffield all had under 5 votes, which means they're not getting in this year. And when this Eras Committee convenes in 2028, it's on a 3-year cycle, they will not be on the ballot for that. They are in theory, 2031, just shy of my 50th birthday, they can be back on the ballot again. But yes, they're going to be waiting at least 6 years now for Barry Bonds, Roger Clemens, Gary Sheffield, who I think is a very underrated player in his own right, over 500 home runs in his career. I know he did play for a lot of teams, kind of was cantankerous with some of them, but you got 7 Cy Youngs, you got all these MVPs in Clemens and in Bonds on the outside looking in, and they're going to be sitting here for 6 years at least waiting to go in. And again, I don't know any personal details on those guys, but when you're talking about dudes over 55, 60 years old, 6 years isn't exactly guaranteed. So these guys are looking at probably never being in the Hall of Fame officially now.
Well, it's, you know what, I think you actually made it what you learned last weekend, I believe, Rozycki, with Bud Selig and everything. And I think it's like, we all watched. I know you just grilled me on Jeff Kent. I cannot think who I'm thinking of, the outfield for the Angels. I'm going to think of
Anderson?
No, I'll think
Jim Edmonds.
No, it's okay. It's another time. All I'll say is
Snow.
Bud Selig watched all this happen. Yeah, Bud Selig watched all this happen, man, and it's like, he's in the Hall of Fame, and you know what? He did usher in a great era of baseball. And is it looked at as like you look at it, some people look at it as a bad time, some look at it as a great time. All I know is there was tons of eyes on the sport when that was happening. But it was ushered in with guys like Barry Bonds, Roger Clemens, Alex Rodriguez. Just guys that were either mashing the freaking baseball or they were zooming it past batters. And, I mean, I just think it's a shame. Should baseball not go back to that? I mean, that's up for discussion. I still think I'd love to see just one more time big homer baseball. But at the end of the day, it happened. You have to acknowledge the era of baseball. Like you said last week, Rozycki, you really put it well, and I kind of just like hammered home that point. You have to respect that era of baseball that Bud Selig wanted. If you're going to put Bud Selig in, then you got to put these other guys in. That's kind of how I look at it.
Well, and real quick, too, the other thing that you also have to respect is that, in the era of podcasting where a lot of former players are getting interviewed and, giving their thoughts on stuff, everybody from Darryl Strawberry to Greg Maddux to Randy Johnson, anybody asked who was the best player you ever played against with no hesitation, they say Barry Bonds.
Yeah.
No hesitation.
Yeah, and that's why, the writers, the ones who didn't vote for them, they got their wish. They dictate who goes to the Hall of Fame or not. So
this wasn't the writers. This was a different eras committee. They had like Jason Stark on it, had some former players. This was not the writers. So they had two different groups of people give them the middle finger collectively and tell them to get away.
And as an observer and a fan who watched those guys who they denied, I'll give them the middle finger. If you have something against that, because I saw like those people are the reason. Barry Bonds, it's one of the reasons why I got into baseball. One of the reasons why I got into sports. And the fact that he's not in, that kind of deal, and the fact that he'll never get in just because of, issues that you had, is like, well, they did this. Fine. You win. So because of that, I will not even acknowledge. He's in my Hall of Fame. I won't even acknowledge your existence, your mere existence of a voter if you have that against those guys. Because you cannot deny that era of base. You just can't, in my mind. You just can't.
Well, the weird thing is, too, and again, I know this wasn't the writers with this particular situation. I thought that there would be around about now some tolerance for steroids, some leeway for it, because for the sheer fact, again, I'm 43 years old. There are a lot of baseball writers out there that are roughly that age who did come up during that time, and just like Double A saying, just like Moon saying, our whole experience of baseball was shaped by Bonds, by McGuire, by Sosa, by Clemens, by Sheffield. And you really can't tell the story without any of that happening. And
that's the whole point of the Hall of Fame. The whole point of any Hall of Fame. Can you tell the story of your sport without them in it?
Right. And it's like
these guys are trying to dictate how the sport should have been remembered. And they don't have that right. They don't.
Well, the thing is, and I'm looking at this a little bit more, the ballot committee that was voting on this, Ferguson Jenkins, Jim Cott, Juan Marichal, Tony Perez, Ozzie Smith, Alan Trammell, Robin Yount, who are all Hall of Fame players. They are, that is, I think Hall of Famers are probably uniquely qualified to judge Hall of Fame talent. Then you had a couple of major league executives that were involved. Kim Ning, who was the old GM of the Marlins, who was doing really, really well. I think she's working for USA Baseball now. And then a couple of historians. So this wasn't the normal kind of pissed off writer kind of just rolling their eyes. These are, opinions, when you're talking Ferguson Jenkins, Alan Trammell, these are opinions I have to respect. They made the Hall of Fame. So it is a little tough to just kind of understand, like, again, why the superstar players of probably one of the most important eras of baseball aren't in. And the whole confusion of it is too, and what puts more blame on Selig, the reason why there is so much ambiguity, just so much a big cloud around all this of uncertainty. They weren't testing for this when McGuire was hitting dingers. They weren't testing for this at the turn of the century. They don't have a test to look at let alone see if they failed or flunked. They didn't want to know. The easiest way to have nobody fail a test is to not give the test. So baseball, their heads were in the sand. They knew what was going on. They had no problem with it back then. The problem is, though, is that baseball has had no issue with it, and it's the writers and the other people who are playing the game who have opinions. If Bud Selig was voting on it, I'm sure they'd be in.
Well, my final point on this one, because I know I'm sure we got a few other things to get to. My final point is, you look at like the Hollywood Walk of Fame, and like the Hollywood Walk of Fame, is everybody on there probably the greatest of human beings? Probably not. But
No.
look, I haven't analyzed all the Walk of Fame. I'm just look, there's a lot of them. So what I'm getting at is, it tells the story of Hollywood. However, you still see, and they're still adding to it, but it's telling the story of Hollywood. Who was big in Hollywood? Who made some impact? So to Double A's point, how can you tell the story of baseball? Your Hall of Fame. However you want to look at the era afterwards is how you want to look at it. But how can you tell that story without mentioning and putting in Bonds, Rodriguez, these types of guys, McGuire, Sosa? I mean, like, it just doesn't make sense, man. I remember, when I got a chance, like when I got a little bit older, into my 18, 19 years old, and Pops is like, hey, I want to show you some of these sports stuff that I was collecting, as you're growing up. I had a Mark McGuire 70 home run hat that I still rock to this day now. A 70 home run, hat. And you got Sosa, freaking posters. And one of my favorite players, I know you guys are going to freaking grill me, but I liked watching Alex Rodriguez sit there and mash wherever he was at for his team. It was exciting, though. I mean, I get it. He was a Yankee, and
I really liked hating him. He was fun to hate.
But man, was it, like you were taught this, so it's like for us to sit here, especially my childhood, sitting here and watching these guys, and then to tell me they're not Hall of Famers, you just can't do that. It doesn't make any sense. And that's just where I stand.
By the way, Kevin Spacey has a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. He's had it for 26 years. Yeah. So, I mean, you are right where, dude, you can even just look in baseball. Just don't even look at the Hollywood stuff. Ty Cobb, the stuff that he was pulling, Cap Anson was basically responsible for the segregation of Major League Baseball until 1943. There's a lot of complex histories in that kind of stuff. Now, the thing with Cobb or with Anson or, with any of that kind of crap, that didn't play into the competitive balance of the game.
Right.
Yeah, that's where people get, again, we've seen it happen in sports where people have fans have more patience with an athlete that beats their wife instead of cheating. The cheating, they got to go because that's messing with the game. The beating with the wife, look at Deshaun Watson. There's a lot of stuff you want to, and again, I don't want to say he beat anybody. I don't want to, but there's a lot of baggage to go with that.
The allegations.
People don't care about that kind of stuff. But what if it affects you winning and if it affects the game itself, then people start caring.
If it's a gambling situation, definitely.
Yeah. Speaking of which, and just a little news and note thing too. Apparently, Major League Baseball was investigating Pete Rose about 4 years before anybody thought they were. So, just I guess we could throw that in there with baseball. But this is the news and notes segment here on the main event on the Inside Edge Podcasting Network. One other really story of note, and I sent it to you guys a couple days before. Do we have video on this? I don't know if we do.
No, it was a good video.
Okay. Well, we have a former Brown. We all know him. We all love him. He was responsible for keeping this team together and holding the culture with his bare hands. Odell Beckham Jr. Yes. The one who really didn't like Baker Mayfield. Yeah. But we have Odell Beckham. He went out on the Pivot podcast. That is Ryan Clark's podcast. Honestly, I was thinking about this the other day. Ryan Clark looks like a extra large version of Kevin Hart, but I'll stand by that. But Odell Beckham, he went out on a podcast, the Pivot podcast, and was talking about the difficulties of making $100 million. And I'm pulling up the actual transcripts right now from this. I think, and there's actually a few people who are agreeing with Odell, saying how tough it is for somebody to be dealing with this. But he went on to tell Clark and his co-host here It's that quote, that's a 5-year span. Can you make that money last forever? After all, Beckham argued that you have to remember that it isn't exactly $20 million a year after tax. It's more like 12. You have to spend, use, save, invest, flaunt, whatever. Just being real. I'm going to buy a car. I'm going to give my mom a house. Everything costs money. That was Odell Beckham Jr., the same person who was banned from the LSU locker room for handing out bundles of cash to college athletes. But we have Odell complaining about the fact that $100 million doesn't go nearly as far as it used to, I guess. Do we have any sort of opinion on Odell?
I think the original question was, can $100 million last a lifetime? And that was going to be here's the thing, though. Because it came from Odell, you could say, dude, the chain that you're wearing is worth $10 million. Just say that. It's like, dude, what are you doing? But I think the toughest thing, you kind of listen to both sides of it. I heard Shannon Sharp talk about it. Really, it's about, can you cut? This is going to sound really harsh, but it's true. A lot of athletes, a lot of public officials and people with money, once you have that money, right, you owe it to your mom, you owe it to your dad, you owe it to, your brothers and sisters, and your grandma, and then, but what about, your cousins, and what about, the other cousins, and what about your other longtime friends? What about you see where I'm going with this?
Okay. Yeah.
All of a sudden, everybody else is jumping in, and if you don't give back, then that's crazy. The one quick story I'll add, I heard Jameis Winston talk about this a little bit ago. Jameis Winston had to cut people off because when he got his NFL contract, he was losing $400,000 a month. And he didn't even realize he was losing that money. And he was mentioning, it's one thing when you're spending that money. It's another thing when other people have access to your money and they're spending that money. Yeah. You don't know where the expenses are coming from. Mm-hmm. And it's month in and month out. So I want to slam Odell just because it's the messenger, because it's Odell. But you mentioned those taxes. You mentioned the access
fees, the hangers on. And I understand that. And believe, and actually, if you want to venture out outside the Inside Edge network here, Pablo Torre did a great sit-down podcast, about an hour long, talking about athletes going broke. You can check that out on his page, whatever. And they do have a lot of reasons. They do have a lot of things that we don't have to worry about as just common folk. But they also have something that we don't either. When they go into their entry-level job, when they get drafted, they go into their rookie training camp, their symposium, their whatever, they have financial advisors talking to them from day one. They maybe even before day one. When they're in college, depending on the program you're in, I'm sure financial literacy, for LSU, we'll use where Odell went to school. You got a lot of NFL guys that might need to know stuff like that. They are talked to. They are advised. They have a union. They have an agent. They have a lot of protective things around them to make sure that they're making good decisions, that they're not making stupid decisions. Now, the guy that Pablo was talking to was a financial advisor for athletes. That was his job, was dealing with 22-year-old millionaires. And he'll say it all the time. He goes, dude, I go in there, I talk to teams, I give the lectures, I have the conversations. And half of the people, when they're doing that, they're just blowing it off. They don't want to listen to it. They don't care because you know what? They're 21 years old. They're indestructible. They're immortal. There's nothing bad that can happen to them. I know all those old geezers went bankrupt, but I will not be that guy. So they blow it off. At the end of the day, Odell Beckham Jr. is a 33-year-old grown-ass man. He was a 25-year-old grown-ass man, 27-year-old, whatever he was, when he signed the $100 million contract. Make your own decisions. Don't feel like you have to go out and buy 7 sports cars and hand out gobs of money to college kids and do all the things that he was very public in doing that cost a lot of money, because he's learning right now. You were making $20 million a year a few years ago. That goes away the second that ACL went away, and you're not making that money anymore, and you're never going to make that money anymore.
But how many
guys got to understand that? And if they don't get it through their head, there's no adjustments we can make. There is no information we can tell them. There is no tweak to the system that we have that is going to stop them from doing it.
But how many people, even when they're in their early 20s, 18, 19, and especially now with NIL, even in college, how many people around them are telling them no? I know you have like the advisors while you're in the NFL. And I'm not denying that at all. That is true. But how many people in their inner circle are telling them no? Don't buy that extra car. No, don't do this, because it's the access thing, right? It's you made it. You are the man. You are the man.
The advisor kind of went
in your university. You're the man on the team. So how many people are actually telling them no? That's the big question.
But the thing is, though, and the advisor, and this was some of the advice that these guys do get. This dude was saying straight up, he goes, your 22-year-old halfback doesn't give a shit about mortgages, doesn't care about long-term loans or retirement accounts. The biggest thing you can do, and what they try to do when they're that young, is say, all right, figure out the people you can trust. Figure out the people who are here for the right reasons. Figure out the people that aren't going to be draining you for the rest of your life. And these kids, again, they don't want to listen. Because
I think some do. I'm not going to lump in everybody.
No, some do. But a lot of these, but again, like your ego when you're drafted is through the roof. You have just done something that every adult in your life has told you was impossible since you were the age of 12. Oh, when you're in middle school, it's 1 out of 1 million people are going to play in the. Well, in high school, it's 1 out of 200,000. Or when and you're hearing the odds that you're consistently beating all the time. So you think you're invincible. You think you're smarter than the average bear. You think it's never going to go away, and it's all wrong. It all will go away, and they don't want to listen. They don't care. They think they're above it. They don't worry about it, whatever. And now you're Odell Beckham Jr. You're 33 years old. You made $100 million, and you're probably going to have to work at Costco.
But I don't think I'm sorry, Eli, and I think Eli is a great example of this too, because of your music career and having people around and the collective, and you all do a great job with everything. I think even if we scale it, because let's just be real, none of us have this kind of money, ever did, right? But man, if we had not just a regular paycheck, but that one bonus, do we reasonably say, man, I have credit card debt. I should probably put that extra money and pay off my credit card loans, or pay them student loans, or pay this off? Or do you say, it would be really nice to take a vacation? It would really be nice to buy that, get that steak dinner.
The other thing is too, and I know we're not going
to our level.
And I know we're not going to make that kind of money, but one thing that we have that the athletes don't, and us as broadcasters have a real long time with it, we can make money for 60 years. Our earning power is there. Like the money that we're making, at roughly 35, 40 years old, you can be making at 50, 60, 70 years old, if not a little bit more. The athlete, when you hit 35, if you're lucky, if you hit 35, 36, you're done. Most of them, you hit 25, you're done. So, and I'm not talking about the dudes that are, hovering around league minimum, the guys that are just trying to get by. I'm talking about the Odells that do sign multiple contracts, that are around for a decade, that, do make some money. I don't feel bad when you have every avenue in the world to advise you, to help you out, to, again, you have an agent, you have a union, you have a team owner, you have a lot of people out there that are trying to give you right advice. And Every time I've ever heard about a player talking to an owner about financial advice, the owner's more than happy to crack open the books and just be like, all right, what do you need to know? So, like, I don't feel bad. It's easier to blame the system instead of taking personal accountability. You just say, oh, I didn't know. Oh, they didn't do anything. Oh, they just left me out to dry. It's a whole lot easier to blame nobody than blame yourself.
It's just crazy, though. And I was glad I didn't have to say absolutely anything during that part. For you to make my entire point, Rozycki, of why NBA All-Stars should ask for more money when they do play the All-Star game. Because who are we to say that they have enough money? Because clearly Odell Beckham Jr. is saying 100, and he makes his own financial decisions. But that's why I continue to hover back to my point on that, to bring it here. Who are we to say these guys have enough money when they all are obviously handling their money different ways? So on that, on Odell Beckham Jr., maybe you should have put it in a high-yielding savings account.
So they need to get paid. They need to get paid for the All-Star game because they're stupid with money?
No, because they aren't going to be playing for 30, 40 years, like you said. They're not going to once they hit 35. That's it. They might not have the money. So, thank you for making my point.
I mean, yeah. You're kind of Team Odell with, man. $100 million doesn't go nearly as far as it used to.
I'm not necessarily Team Odell.
You're getting paid $1 million a month.
I'm not necessarily Team Odell, but it's more so like these guys should go out and get as much money as they can then, because obviously some of them can make better decisions with it than others. Odell is struggling with $100 million. There's some guys that make $50 million stretch, but
or the other side of that argument is that no matter how much money you pay these guys, they're not going to manage it well. So why do you pay them at all?
Well, to tie this all in, even on a Cleveland angle for a hot second, we saw how much impact Odell's dad had on his career. What happened in terms of, the turbulence of the 2019 season.
Mm-hmm.
So even from his own family, and I only put it out there because he made himself a public figure, Odell's dad, even from a family standpoint, how much good advice was he getting?
Well, you look at the guy he was butting heads with. Remember, Baker was fighting, I think, with his own family over financial stuff. So, that money can go. Bernie Kosar, same thing. You can do everything right and still get screwed.
So that's the only thing. You can have all the inside in the building resources. You can. But if your loved ones are telling you, hey, go out and get it and do that, a lot of times you go take the word of your loved ones over financial advice.
And this is going to be something we're going to have to worry about too. And I think you could briefly brought it up with college and high school now with NIL. And again, I don't know anything about where Odell kind of came from and what his economic situation was. There's going to be a possibility that you're going to hand, a high school, the parents of a high school kid who could be in their early 30s or mid 30s at this rate, $100,000 for the kid to play tailback at Benedictine or whatever. There's a chance that $100,000 check is the most money anybody in that house has ever seen
in that community.
So when when the people advising you don't even know and have a lot of don't have a lot of experience on what's going on with this is a big and for the high school kids, for the college kids or college adults, I do understand to a point, because that's a lot of money to throw at a 19-year-old kid. But when you're Odell and you've made all this and you've had the chances to put this money in and be responsible with it and be a grown-ass man about it, I don't feel all that bad. On a related note to Matt Barnes, the All the Smoke podcaster, former NBA player, he is currently embattled in a lawsuit because he handed $65,000 over to an Instagram model who turned out to be AI. Yeah, so
we gotta have I know this is sports. I'm gonna veer off for 2 seconds and then bring it back. Every high school, even middle school, every student needs to take a money management course.
Yeah. No, I agree.
Yeah,
that has to happen.
Several of them. And
you're right. It has to be several. It can't just be a one quarter elective your senior year before you graduate just to get credits. That is honestly
having money math, a math class that is devoted to balancing books, to what you need to do, and have kind of the periphery stuff, how to do your fucking taxes. Like that's where, and you want to talk about the tax situation for these athletes again. Like again, I'm not trying to sound like they're all insanely stupid people. They do have their own issues and issues that we don't have to deal with, like the tax situation. Like there is no way a normal person can do that tax. For Steph Curry or for LeBron or for whoever, with the jock tax and all the stuff involved. So yeah, there are some pitfalls, and yeah, I think something for the line cook making $30K a year or the wide receiver making $200 million over 5, both need to know how the hell to manage their money. So,
by the way, a little sidebar: if you are a local tax company interested in sponsoring the Inside Edge Network, give me a call.
And also, a bit of advice too: if you want to be sound with your money, don't give random Instagram models $64,000. That will help a lot. But this is the main event here on the Inside Edge Podcasting Network. We've done our news and notes here. Does anybody have any other stories of note? There was a non-sports story I did kind of want to bring up. And I guess I was almost going to use this as what I learned this week. And one of the things I learned this week, it's not sports. Don't piss off 50 Cent.
Go ahead, man. Go ahead, real quick. Go ahead, man.
So I don't know what the original incident was between Curtis 50 Cent Jackson and Sean P. Diddy inmate number Combs. But apparently 50 and Puff Daddy don't get along all that well. And it's manifested itself now after Diddy has gone to jail for, the baby oils. It wasn't even the baby oil sex parties. They got it for something else. But Fiddy has come out with a documentary. Now, the two things I found out about this documentary, people were wondering why that there were footage of Sean Combs talking to his lawyers in this documentary. That stuff is typically confidential and privileged, and there's laws around it. Well, what happened was Diddy ended up getting this camera crew to follow him around at the beginning of the trial. Didn't pay him, went belly up, did the whole Donald Trump, not going to pay you for the services rendered. Fiddy came in and said, how about I pay you, but you give me the footage? And he put it in there. And I don't know, Double A, if you've heard this one here. 50 Cent did a local TV interview in Kansas.
I was hoping you'd get to this.
Why did he do a local TV interview in Kansas, you ask? I think it's a good question.
Great question.
Well, Diddy is in Leavenworth Prison in Kansas. I don't know why he's in a military prison. I'm not a legal expert, but he's there. And Fiddy found out that the one TV station they get in the prison is the ABC local station he was on. And he wanted to make sure that inmate Combs could look up at the prison TV and watch Fiddy in his Sunday best on national, doing his thing, producing his movies, making his music, and, being a free man. And we could probably look up online the pettiness that 50 Cent has gone through over his years on this earth. But yeah, don't piss off 50 Cent.
Yeah, that honestly should be a mission statement for the What Have You Learned segment, period.
Don't piss off 50 Cent, don't piss off Pablo Torre. Those are the two guys to stay away from.
But if you piss off 50, you're gonna learn the rest of your life.
Oh, yeah. Well, dude, ask Bill Belichick and Jordan Hudson about pissing off Pablo Torre. He's doing the Harvard intellectual version of what Fiddy's doing to Diddy.
All right, let's do no. It's Sunday late. What have we learned?
Sunday for about 37 more minutes, yeah.
Yes.
What have we learned?
Eli, you go first.
Okay.
Okay, go ahead.
All right. What I learned this weekend, pretty short to the point, first off, a few things, just more tiny tidbits. The Browns have their potential franchise quarterback, even though they lost. It's freezing out, and I can't get away with wearing my Vans anymore because when I walk in the snow, my Vans are soaked. So not good there. I got a really nice winter coat, thanks to Narrator. That was good. Got that before the snow, but I'm embracing it even more. So shout out, bro. And also, what I learned this weekend, take care of your health. I'm just dealing with some stuff outside of here. But just take care of your health, man. I've talked about mental health. Take care of that. Talk to your friends, talk to your loved ones. Check in on them. As obviously it starts snowing and it's 5 o'clock, and the sun's already down here in Ohio. That shit sucks sometimes. So call your friends, call your family, check on the person, say hi to the person in the grocery store, if you're taller than them, grab the thing they need in the store. I mean, come on, man, it's not that hard. Just love people and take care of your physical too. And that's on me too. I got to start drinking more water, and I'm cognizant that I probably eat way too much Chex Mix and salt and vinegar Lay's. So at the end of the day, take care of yourself, man. And that's a lot of what I learned this weekend. And what I learned is, 2025 is coming close to an end.
Yeah, the health stuff's very important. Little plug for the network. Either this weekend or very soon, I will be a guest on Real Talk with Papa Moon.
That's right. That's right.
Can't wait for that coming up. You're gonna learn about my life and my problems. No, it's gonna be all fun. I can't wait.
That's gonna be fun.
They're doing a great job with that show. Last episode dropped Saturday night, yesterday. So check it out on the Inside Edge Network, on the Twitter and all that stuff. A lot of good stuff there. I learned 2 things. Number 1, your boy's going to the playoffs in fantasy football.
Oh, wow.
Your boy's going to the playoffs. The Sunday Night Football, there's 2 minutes left. 17-10, but the more important who's winning? Houston's winning. But the more important score is 107-100.
Wow.
That's my fantasy team versus Globey. I needed to win. I won. I just got a congrats text from Mac Robinson. We're going back to the playoffs.
Okay. You got Ricky round 1.
Ricky. So at least we'll have the playoff appearance. So
nice.
Thank you. It's on the resume. It's a resume builder. Indeed. What have you done lately? Fantasy football playoffs, 3rd year in a row. All right. More importantly, congrats to our area football teams that won states. Avon, Glenville, and then the team I want to talk about for a few moments, Kirtland. The Kirtland Hornets have won their 8th state championship. And they've actually appeared in the last 9 state championship games. And, they have a crazy record under Tiger Laverty, who's just completed his 20th season as head coach of the Kirtland Hornets. And, it's a special tie-in, obviously, with Kirtland. I've had the opportunity to cover the CVC, Chagrin Valley Conference games, did a few of their games. And you want to talk about a true dynasty and a team that does it the right way. Avon does it the right way. Glenville does it the right way with Ted Ginn and Mike Elder. But what Tiger Laverty has been able to do with a small community team that it's not a private school, anything like that. He invested in the youth program. Everybody wants to play football there. And it's one of those things where you're expected to be great year in and year out. And the fact that this team has played, 15 games, and before that, 16 games, year in and year out as high school kids, man, they're really doing their thing. And to really prove that point, I just saw it here. In the state title, throughout the year, Kirtland has 3 guys who rushed for over 1,000 yards. John Silvesto, he rushed for over 2,000 yards, 2,345 yards. Ty Bledsoe, nearly 1,400 yards. And their quarterback, Tiger Laverty's son, Jake Laverty, who's just wrapped up his senior year, on the football team. Over 1,000 yards rushing. It takes extreme discipline. They run like the wing T, the triple option offense. It takes extreme discipline to run that offense and to be able to do it year in and year out. It's really been special to watch in person. And they have a great crew. They have a stat crew to keep track of their stats. So a lot of times we do some of the other games, we'll ask for rosters and we might get a couple things going on. You got to go to Cleveland.com or the News Herald for stuff. Logan Bukowski, they put together a 45-page game notes. You remember how long the game notes were when we did the captains? They have 45 pages worth of notes for every game. Historical statistics, things like that. Every little thing that you want a sports program to do, Kirtland does it the right way. So I just want to send a personal congrats to the Kirtland Hornets and also the other area teams that won states. Glenville has won 3 out of 4. Avon, I think, won their second straight state title in Division II. So congrats to all of our area teams who won states.
And AA, I want to say congratulations to you because your Bowling Green, not classmate, but you're both alum. Harold Fannin got in the end zone today. So think about that. Bowling Green on top today.
Yeah.
And he should have got it. He should have got in there twice because that great catch that Njoku made, Shador did not see Fannin basically by himself just in the middle of the end zone.
Yeah, it was fun. It was great as a BG alum. Watching the state championship games like Glenville and some of the other teams. When I hear this stud player is going to Eddie George and the Bowling Green Falcons, like, okay, that feels pretty good.
Heck yeah, man. Yeah, BG's got a guy there in Eddie George that players want to go play for. We talk about all the time. Coach, it's a coach's world, and players don't commit to the school anymore. They commit to the coach, and a lot of guys would like to play for Eddie George.
And that's why Indiana, congrats to them, 80 years without an outright Big Ten championship. That's why you commit to a coach. You may have to overpay, but you commit to a coach. The players, the talent, they're going to come with it.
Yeah, Signetti's going to be able to basically run for mayor in Bloomington whenever he wants. Yeah, at that rate. I do have something that we're learning right now. While Houston drilled a field goal with about 30 seconds to go in the Sunday night game. This is not what I officially learned here. But the Kansas City Chiefs, they want to be trendy. You know, they got Taylor Swift, you got Patrick Mahomes there. So it would only make sense that they want to follow where the kids are going. So when this game is over, they're now going to be 6-7. Sorry, guys. Game under 500. You have the same record as the Miami Dolphins. The Dallas Cowboys are better than the Kansas City Chiefs. I just wanted to share that with everybody and laugh. Now the bad thing is that we all wanted the Chiefs to go down, but we didn't realize that the Chiefs going down was going to be the sign of the Patriots' resurrection. So we're going to be back to that again. But it is what it is. What I've really learned today, and since last week we tried this out, I'm going to try to do this again here. I have a pack of baseball cards that was made before either one of my co-hosts were born. 1990. Desert Storm was brewing. George H.W. Bush was in office. I had a full head of hair. I was 8 years old. So I'll open these up while I talk about what I have learned. 1990 Topps, by the way, is the make and model here. We brought it up a little bit with the college football stuff and about just the ever-changing atmosphere of college football. And one thing I noticed this week more than years past, really, if it's Mario Cristobal in Miami, if it's BYU and their head coach, Marcus Freeman in Notre Dame, yeah, you need to recruit. You need to be able to coach in the game. You need to be able to lead the program. But you also need to have as good of a political mind as anybody running for Congress. These guys have had to go out and believe we've all watched elections. We've all been around presidential, especially even the last few cycles have been insane. But I have seen more politicking with the college football playoff in 2025 than I've seen out of most political elections. Mario Cristobal talking up his program, talking about, talking down on BYU, talking down on Notre Dame. These guys are now basically spending a lot of time out there being a pitch man is really what they're doing. And I heard, I saw a lot of people kind of, shitting all over these college coaches for doing that. But that's part of what are these guys supposed to do? Are they going to go out in front of the media and say, yeah, Notre Dame's better? Yeah, put that in. No, these guys get paid, by the way, for college football playoff appearances. They can possibly get better jobs out of college. Ask Lane Kiffin. You don't even have to coach in the college football playoff. All you have to do is make the college football playoff, and you'll get a better job. So, yeah, these guys are going to be out there absolutely advertising and being political figures for their program. And I think we're going to see that over the next decade or so if the system kind of sticks. That becoming a really, really important part of this. Now, speaking of going back to the cards here real quick, let me put the spectacles on. All right. But that's basically what I've learned here. All right, let's see if we have anybody of note in this pack. Double A, you stop me when you've actually heard of a name. These are baseball.
Okay.
Wes Gardner for the Red Sox. Okay. Jim Corsi for the Athletics.
I thought you were about to say Jim Cornette. Go ahead, keep going.
Jim Cornette.
Todd Worrell for the Cardinals. I think he made a couple of All-Star teams. Dan Pasqua for the White Sox.
Oh, not Dan Patrick?
No. Gary Thurman for the Kansas City Royals.
Wait, what was that last name?
Gary Thurman.
Oh, I thought it was Gary Thorne.
Dave Parker.
Okay,
he's actually in the Hall of Fame.
Okay.
Let's see. Barry Lyons. Mets. I haven't even heard of that bastard.
Oh, it's not Barry Larkin?
No. Ken Daly for the Cardinals. Oh, we have the one, the only Tom Amansky pitchman, Fred McGriff.
Okay, I've heard of Fred McGriff.
Good job, guys. Jimmy Jones. Not Jim Jones, the one who took everybody down south and drank the Kool-Aid. Jimmy Jones.
We fly high, no lie. You know this. Ballin'!
We have current Pirates color man, Bob Walk, for the Pirates. Doug Strange. I don't know him, and he was a Tiger. Jose, don't call me Juan Gonzalez. I don't know who that guy is. Marcus Lawton. Glenn Allen Hill, anybody? No.
Nah.
And Topps All-Star rookie, Greg Jeffries, complete with the mark that the gum has been sitting on this cardboard for 35 years. So, yeah, we do have that going for
Not
us.
a super strong pack.
No, not a strong pack at all. But, I mean, with these wax packs, what are you really going to do? Actually, what you're really going to do, and since we've only been on the air for about 3 hours, we do have a second pack. I'm now just chasing the dragon here. Let's see. Steve Lyons.
I want to hear it.
Steve Lyons, George Canali. I don't even know if I'm pronouncing that.
Canoli?
Steve Lyons was in there?
Yes.
I know him.
Former Cleveland great Keith Hernandez. I think he played 30 games here.
Appeared on an episode of Seinfeld.
Hal Morris. I think he was around for a while.
Doesn't ring
Future
a bell.
star Alex Sanchez. They got that one wrong. Jason Grimsley. Do you know that name at all?
Jason Grimsley?
Yes. He was on the Guardians a few years after this. And he was the lightest, or I'm sorry, Indians at the time. He was the lightest player they had on the roster. So when the umpires took Albert Bell's bat that they thought was corked and they put it in the umpire room, they needed someone to Mission Impossible style from the top of the umpire room, grab the bat like Indiana Jones, put a good one back in the spot, and then go back up in the air from whence he came. That guy was Jason Grimsley.
That's amazing.
That's a good card.
Story.
Yeah, that's a great card.
We got Jim Rice, Hall of Famer.
Just like his brother Jerry.
Steve, that was a giveaway thing. Steve Wilson, Candy Maldonado, Randy Milligan, Ken Oker. I've never heard of this guy. Ken Oberfell, whatever the fuck. Mickey Hatcher, John Cerruti, Jay Howell. A whole lot of bullshit. I have one more pack here, but my streak is bad. I will not open it. But yes, that's what we've learned. I've learned I really have a problem with baseball cards too. That's probably another thing. But any other closing thoughts, gentlemen?
We're gonna do the MVP rankings next week, Eli. We promise we're gonna do it. And when we do it, maybe this guy may not be on the list. His name is Baker Mayfield. Because I have a stat for you. It says here from week 7 on, Baker Mayfield ranks 36 of 37 in both EPA and CPOE among quarterbacks with 80-plus passes. He is only ahead of J.J. McCarthy. And
I would be much more impressed with that stat if I knew what the fuck it was.
And for reference, the 4 names just ahead of him, Justin Fields, Davis Mills, Carson Wentz, and Dylan Gabriel. Just a team for next week.
Well, I'll say this.
I was going to go with Jokic, but
well, I'll say this, Double A. My final point of the show is none of those guys you just named are going to be in my MVP ranking. I'm sure of that next week.
They might be on my fantasy team the way this shit's going. But yes, do we want to pull the plug on this one? I mean, we've only been on the air for roughly 3 hours. What do we got?
I got to go back to work tomorrow.
All right. Well, we will see you next week. We'll keep an eye on the schedule too. I do have the morning rigmarole with the morning show coming up. The holiday run, so we will be talking off air about what we want to do for our schedule. But yes, obviously they'll be on next Sunday trying to figure out what the hell happened with Major League Baseball, with the NFL, with the NBA, maybe even the NHL. We'll see what's happening. But this is before we go, any more parting thoughts, gentlemen?
I have nothing other than I'm going to have to go to Giant Eagle down the street before work tomorrow. I forgot coffee cream. I was on vacation this past week. I have coffee. I'm ready to go, but it might be just straight black coffee.
You're not ready to go. You don't have the creamer.
We'll be fine. Hey, I'm going to have a tough morning, too. I got to be up and ready at work at the crack of 6 p.m. So, yeah, we'll see what's happening.
Listen, it was my idea to have this thing start earlier, and somehow we're still ending at midnight. What the hell?
Yeah.
Hey, it's better than 1 a.m.
Yeah.
According to my neighbors, it's better than 1 a.m.
All right. Well, speaking of ending the show, I think we will finally pull the plug. We will throw the mercy flush. We will put a dot on this whole thing. This is the main event on the Inside Edge Podcasting Network for AA Anthony Alford, for Eli Moon. I'm Rob Rozycki. We'll see you when we see you. Have a great week, everybody.